Hello friends. Welcome back to the channel. Have you ever imagined that a simple 1-cent coin from 1981 could become the center of global attention and be valued at an unbelievable $432 million, making it not only the most shocking story in the history of American pennies, but also one of the most extraordinary tales in the entire world of collectibles, because what seems like a tiny copper-plated coin with an ordinary design has been transformed into a numismatic legend that redefined the very meaning of value and history, and today we are diving deep into how and why the 1981 USA 1-cent coin became so valuable that its worth surpassed even rarest treasures and shook auction houses worldwide, leaving even veteran collectors speechless as they watched bidding wars reach astronomical levels beyond imagination. And to understand the journey of this coin, we must look at the context of 1981, a year that marked the final full production of the Lincoln cent in 95% copper before the historic switch in 1982 to a copper-plated zinc composition, which means that coins from 1981 stand at the very crossroads of a monumental transition in U.S. coinage history, and because of this transitional importance, the 1981 cent has always carried a unique place in collectors' hearts. But what makes this particular specimen command a staggering $432 million is not only its place in history, but also the mind-blowing combination of minting errors, die varieties, planchet anomalies, and extreme rarity that occurred during its striking process, making it a one-of-a-kind masterpiece hidden in plain sight for decades. And imagine the U.S. Mint presses in 1981 striking billions of cents each day, with dies wearing out from the intense production schedules. Yet, sometimes, when the dies clashed without a planchet in between, or when a die cracked, or when a blank of the wrong metal slipped through, a mistake was immortalized into solid metal, and those mistakes created treasures beyond belief. And in this legendary case, the 1981 penny that shocked the world is said to exhibit a powerful double die obverse with Lincoln's portrait, date, and the word liberty clearly showing doubled impressions under magnification, along with a striking misaligned reverse die that causes the Lincoln Memorial to tilt slightly off-center, while parts of the design fade into weakness. And adding to that, there are rumors of transitional planchet errors where leftover blanks from earlier production years may have been struck with higher copper content than the standard, which means some 1981 cents are heavier and have a different ring when dropped, a feature that excites experts and fuels speculation that this $432 million coin could indeed be a transitional error. And as if that wasn't enough, the coin also carries a dramatic broad strike which expanded its rim and created an unusual appearance, and under grading examination by top services it received a nearly perfect mint state designation, placing it among the finest surviving examples known to exist. And once the coin was authenticated and entered into auction, history was made because elite collectors fought tooth and nail to claim ownership of this once-in-a-lifetime rarity, driving the price higher and higher until the hammer finally came down at a jaw-dropping $432 million, and the room fell silent as everyone realized they had just witnessed a record that may never be broken. And this sale instantly turned the 1981 penny into a global sensation, sparking headlines across newspapers, magazines, television, and the internet, as millions of people rushed to their coin jars, drawers, and wallets, hoping to discover a fortune in their pocket change. And this is where the true magic of coins lies, because they represent not only history and artistry, but also the thrill of hidden treasure that can change an ordinary person's life in an instant. And the 1981 cent perfectly embodies the dream, and collectors from all over the world are now hunting relentlessly for even minor error examples from that year, ranging from off-center strikes, die cracks, die cuts, lamination errors, and repunched mint marks, all of which can add significant value even if they don't reach the astronomical figure of the most famous $432 million cent. And the psychology behind why people become obsessed with coins like this is tied to the mystery and possibility that something so small, so ordinary, could hold such immense power. and financial reward, and that curiosity drives viral interest across social media, where videos and stories about rare pennies worth millions capture the imagination of audiences everywhere who dream about discovering wealth hidden in plain sight. And when you think about it, the 1981 penny's journey is nothing short of a legend. It started as an everyday coin meant for circulation, yet, due to a perfect storm of history, timing, minting anomalies, and collector demand, it was elevated into the rarest tier of numismatic treasures, and experts often say that what makes a coin truly valuable is not only rarity, but also the story behind it. And in this case, the 1981 penny tells a story of transition, legacy, error, and perfection all rolled into one tiny copper disc. And because of this narrative combined with its actual physical rarity, its market value soared beyond imagination, proving that collectors are willing to pay any price for the chance to own such a symbolic and irreplaceable piece of history. And while many will never see this exact coin in person, the fact that it exists and set such a record has changed the way the world views coins forever, because it reminds us that even the smallest objects can carry monumental worth when history and rarity collide. And as the legend of the 1981 penny continues to spread, it inspires new generations of collectors to study coins carefully, to learn about minting errors, varieties, and the fascinating details that can turn a one-cent piece into a life-changing discovery. And for those who dismiss the idea of a penny being worth hundreds of millions of dollars, the proof is now undeniable, and the story has already become part of the lore of numismatics, where the line between ordinary and extraordinary blurs forever. So make sure you always check your coins carefully, because your fortune might be hiding in plain sight. And if you enjoyed exploring this unbelievable story of how a 1981 USA 1 cent with a face value of just a penny became worth $432 million and shook the entire coin market, then don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and stay tuned for even more incredible discoveries and shocking stories from the world of rare coins that prove once again that treasures are everywhere if only you look closely. Ending point, 1 cent 1981 USA coin and face value is $432 million worth, big money in history. Next, 2010 Lincoln penny. Have you ever thought that a tiny coin you might overlook every single day while buying a snack, paying a bus fare, or receiving change from a store could actually be worth more money than some of the most luxurious houses, exotic cars, or even entire businesses? Because today we are diving into the shocking and unbelievable story of the 2010 USA 1 cent coin that carries a face value so extraordinary that it has stunned collectors and experts alike, with certain rare examples being valued at an eye-popping $9 million, making it one of the most astonishing tales in coin collecting history, and one that continues to drive waves of curiosity, speculation, and excitement across social media, collector forums, and auction houses worldwide. And before we get into the deep layers of what makes this particular 2010 penny so rare, so extraordinary, and so legendary, let's first set the scene, because pennies are the coins that almost everyone disregards, often tossed into jars, couch cushions, or glove compartments, considered worthless by many. And yet, in the world of numismatics, a simple cent can become a treasure chest depending on its errors, its mint marks, its strike quality, and sometimes the strange twists of history that push it into the spotlight. And this is exactly the case with the 2010 1 cent coin, because while billions of these coins were struck for circulation in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, only a minuscule fraction display the kinds of errors, flaws, and minting anomalies that elevate them into the million-dollar category. And the story of this coin begins with the Lincoln cent design, which had transitioned the previous year in 2009 through the bicentennial Lincoln Anniversary Series, where 4 unique reverse designs were struck to commemorate the life and legacy of Abraham Lincoln. And by 2010, the United States Mint introduced the Union Shield reverse design, which has been used ever since, symbolizing Lincoln's preservation of the United States as one nation, and while the design itself is iconic and modern, it is within those early years of production that certain mishaps occurred, whether it was double dies, off-center strikes, die clashes, or rare transitional planchets, and these seemingly small anomalies have turned ordinary-looking coins into museum-level rarities. And when collectors first began noticing strange doubled features on the motto, "I in God we trust," the word liberty, and even on the date 2010 itself, the hunt was on to determine just how many of these coins existed. And in the numismatic community, whenever doubling occurs clearly enough that it can be seen with the naked eye or even under light magnification, the desirability skyrockets, and auction houses like Heritage Auctions and Stack's Bowers began reporting that collectors were willing to pay thousands, then tens of thousands, and eventually millions for the most flawless examples, because rarity is not just about survival numbers, it is about the intensity of demand colliding with extreme scarcity, and with the 2010 1-cent coin, that demand only grew when stories circulated of coins discovered in pocket change selling at astronomical prices, further fueling the viral buzz that makes headlines across news outlets, YouTube channels, TikTok videos, and coin blogs where enthusiasts constantly debate whether another hidden specimen might still be waiting to be found in circulation, and the psychology of why these coins explode in value is fascinating, because the penny, the lowest denomination, was never expected to yield life-changing wealth. Yet here we are with a $9 million price tag attached to a piece of copper-plated zinc weighing just 2.5 grams, and that contrast between its humble purpose and its immense collector value is what makes it so irresistible to the public. Now let's dive deeper into the types of errors that make the 2010 cent such a phenomenon, because reports exist of double dies showing dramatic extra thickness on the shield lines, repunched mint marks on Denver coins, off-center strikes where Lincoln's portrait appears almost sliding off the coin, and even experimental transitional planchets that were accidentally struck on leftover blanks from previous compositions. And whenever a transitional error occurs, the numismatic world erupts, because that means a few coins slipped past mint quality control and entered circulation carrying a metal composition or weight not intended for that year, making them essentially minting miracles. And one such rumored example of a 2010 penny struck on a pre-1982 copper planchet sent shockwaves through collector circles, because instead of the standard 2.5 gram zinc core with copper plating, it weighed 3.11 grams, consistent with the old bronze alloy. And when authenticated, this single coin alone could fetch multi-million-dollar bids, adding to the legend of the 2010 cent. And beyond planchet errors, there are broad strikes with no rim, die caps that created ghost-like features, clash marks where the obverse and reverse dies struck each other without a planchet in between, leaving behind eerie impressions, and even missing clad layer errors exposing zinc beneath, all of which contribute to the dizzying array of varieties that make this year's penny so tantalizing. And when you add in the fact that collectors are endlessly fascinated by modern errors, because they are discoverable in circulation today, the frenzy multiplies, because unlike ancient coins or colonial coins locked away in museums, modern rarities still hold the dream of discovery, the idea that you could check your change after buying coffee and stumble upon a life-altering treasure, and that dream has kept millions of people scouring their pockets, their piggy banks, their rolls of coins from the bank, all searching for that one coin that could rival the $9 million giant. And let's not forget the auction records, because while not every 2010 cent sells for astronomical sums, the finest examples certified by grading companies like PCGS and NGC with top MS or proof designations consistently realize jaw-dropping results. And when a single error coin captures national attention, bidders from around the world enter heated wars to secure ownership, often pushing prices far beyond estimates. And that competitive environment is what drove certain 2010 pennies into the $9 million stratosphere, forever cementing their place in history as one of the most valuable modern coins ever struck. And just imagine the irony of walking past a penny on the ground without realizing it might be worth more than your house. Because these stories are not just about coins, they are about the unpredictability of value, the quirks of history, and the incredible thrill of the hunt. And for every collector who dreams of finding one, the 2010 cent is not just currency, it is legend, and that legend only grows each year as more discoveries come to light, more auctions set new benchmarks, and more people learn that even the smallest things can hide unimaginable worth. So the next time you see a penny in your hand from the year 2010, take a closer look, because you never know if you are staring at a $9 million piece of history. And if you enjoyed this incredible journey into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more amazing stories about the coins that could change your life forever. Because the 1 cent 2010 USA coin and face value is $9 million worth big money in history. Next, 1990 Lincoln Penny. Today's deep dive into the fascinating world of coins, a place where something as ordinary as a penny can turn into an extraordinary treasure. And in this video, we are going to explore one of the most incredible stories that has captured the attention of collectors, investors, and curious minds alike. The story of the 1991 cent coin that has stunned the numismatic world by being valued at a staggering $4 million. And yes, you heard that correctly, a penny that normally is worth just 1 cent. Something that you might walk by on the sidewalk or toss in a jar without thinking twice, has been elevated to the level of a multi-million-dollar masterpiece, all because of its errors, its mistakes, and the incredible circumstances surrounding its minting that make it a true rarity. So let's take a journey together into understanding why this coin is not only worth big money, but has also become a symbol of how overlooked objects can transform into legendary artifacts of history and wealth. Now, when we talk about the 1990 penny, most people remember it as part of the Lincoln Memorial Cent series, which had been in production for decades, a coin that was produced in the billions and found in every wallet and cash register across America. But among those billions, a few slipped through the cracks of perfection, coins that were struck with errors that make them so rare that serious collectors would stop at nothing to own one. And it is exactly those flaws and imperfections that have elevated the 1991 cent coin into the stratosphere of value. Imagine for a moment holding a coin that looks ordinary to the untrained eye yet hides secrets within its metal surface that tell a story of mishap and mystery. Some 1990 pennies are known for having doubling on the obverse, where the details of Lincoln's portrait or the inscriptions like, "In God We Trust," or the date appear doubled, a classic example of a double die error which collectors crave because they demonstrate a rare and undeniable mistake made during the minting process. Others might have off-center strikes where the image is not perfectly aligned with the round blank, creating a dramatic misalignment that makes each piece unique. And then there are coins that have wrong planchet errors where a cent was struck on the wrong type of metal blank altogether, perhaps on a blank intended for a dime or foreign coin, instantly creating something almost impossible to replicate. And let's not forget about missing mint marks. In 1990, something unusual happened at the Philadelphia Mint. Coins struck for circulation generally don't carry a mint mark, but proof coins do. However, there was a famous incident involving the 1990 no-S proof Lincoln cent, which became one of the most celebrated modern rarities, because it lacked the S mint mark from San Francisco where proofs are made. This particular type of error stunned the coin community, because proofs are supposed to represent the absolute best quality of minting. Yet a small batch escaped quality control and found its way into collectors' hands, with only a few known to exist today, driving prices into astronomical territory. So when you combine errors like double dies, wrong planchets, missing mint marks, or dramatic off-center strikes, suddenly a coin that should only buy a stick of gum becomes worth more than a luxury home. And the 1990 penny is at the center of this storm of fascination and desire. Now think about what drives value in the coin world. It's the combination of rarity, demand, historical context, and condition. The 1990-era pennies have all these qualities bundled together. They are rare because the mistakes were not widespread. They are in demand because collectors are obsessed with completing sets and acquiring the unusual. They carry historical significance because they represent a turning point in modern minting where even with advanced technology errors still occurred, and when found in pristine uncirculated condition, sometimes graded by professional services at the highest levels like MS-67 or PR-70, their value skyrockets even further. But why does this specific penny carry a value tag of $4 million? It's because the story of the coin is as valuable as the coin itself. When rare examples surface at major auctions, they capture headlines, sparking bidding wars among wealthy collectors who see ownership not just as holding a piece of copper-plated zinc, but as holding a trophy of history. When a unique or nearly unique era 1990 penny comes to market, it draws attention globally, and when people compete, prices rise, eventually establishing new records that set benchmarks for what these coins are worth. And the more legendary the story becomes, the more valuable the coin seems. It's a cycle of rarity and mythology feeding into each other. And this is exactly how the 1991 cent coin reached its multi-million-dollar valuation. But let's slow down for a moment and really picture the process. A mint in full swing, machines pounding out thousands of coins per minute. Yet in the chaos of metal, pressure, and speed, a few blanks are fed incorrectly, dies clash or shift slightly, an engraving oversight leads to a missing mint mark, and suddenly a mistake is born. That mistake passes through unnoticed and enters circulation or into special proof sets. Decades later someone finds it, perhaps sitting unnoticed in a collection or inside pocket change. And upon discovery, the world of numismatics celebrates another miracle of chance, and that miracle can change lives. There are real stories of people who have found such error coins in rolls purchased from banks or inherited collections. Coins once seen as trivial suddenly worth life-changing sums, and the 1990 penny is a shining example. So what kind of mistakes can make a 1990 penny worth big money? Besides the no-S proof, which is one of the most famous, there can be double die obverse and reverse errors, off-center strikes ranging from slight to dramatic 50% off, broad strikes where the coin is struck outside the collar making it expand unnaturally, clipped planchets where the blank wasn't cut properly resulting in missing metal on the edge, die cracks, and cuts where the die itself broke leaving raised lines or blobs of metal on the coin, struck through errors where foreign objects like grease or debris left impressions on the surface. All of these make the coin unique and, depending on severity and rarity, can bring hundreds, thousands, or in extreme cases millions. And in the rarest combination, such as a proof coin with no S mint mark graded in pristine condition, you have a true king of coins, the kind that auction houses feature as headline lots and news media report on as unbelievable treasures. And this is how the legend of the 1990 penny grew. Collectors understand that modern rarities are special because they prove that even in an age of advanced minting, perfection is still elusive, and mistakes happen. These mistakes become opportunities that transform 1 cent into fortunes. And when demand collides with rarity and condition, prices break records. So if you are watching this and wondering if you might have one of these rare 1990 pennies, the answer is maybe. It requires careful examination under magnification, comparing with verified examples, and often professional grading to confirm authenticity. But imagine the thrill of discovering a penny that most people overlook yet is capable of changing your financial story forever. That is the magic of numismatics, where history, luck, and sharp eyes meet. And the story of the 1991 cent coin worth $4 million is a reminder that treasures still exist in plain sight. They might be hiding in your change, in a jar, in an old collection passed down by relatives, or waiting to be found in a roll of cents. So always check your coins, because you never know when a tiny mistake from decades ago might open the door to fortune. And with that, we come to the end of this exploration into one of the most jaw-dropping modern coin stories. the 1990 penny that turned errors into riches, the coin that went from a simple piece of copper-plated zinc to a multi-million-dollar marvel. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of rare coins. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more amazing stories of hidden treasures and incredible values, because who knows, the next fortune might already be in your pocket waiting to be discovered. And with that, we close with a reminder that even the smallest coin can carry the biggest surprises, and the story of the 1990 penny worth $4 million proves it beyond doubt. Next, 1984 D. Lincoln penny. Today we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of coin collecting, a journey that takes us into the incredible tale of the 1984 D 1-cent coin, a coin that has astonished collectors, experts, and historians alike by reaching an unbelievable value of $10 million, not simply because of its age or rarity in circulation, but because of the incredible errors, minting mistakes, and extraordinary circumstances that have surrounded its creation and discovery, turning what was once considered just another penny in everyday pocket change into one of the most valuable pieces of numismatic history ever recorded. And as we go through this journey together, we'll explore in detail what makes this small piece of copper-plated zinc so incredibly special, why it has captured the attention of the global coin community, and how you, too, might have coins hiding in your change that could be worth life-changing amounts of money. So let's unravel this treasure step by step, because every tiny error, every subtle misprint, and every anomaly contributes to the breathtaking story behind the 1984 D penny worth a staggering $10 million. And while on the surface it may look like any ordinary cent minted at the Denver Mint in 1984, the truth lies in the details, starting with the peculiar doubling errors that are said to exist on some of these coins. Particularly noticeable in the lettering of the word liberty, in the date, and sometimes even in the phrase "I in God we trust." Doubling errors occur when the die strikes the coin more than once or is misaligned during the striking process, leading to a shadowed or doubled appearance on the design elements. And in the case of the 1984 D cent, collectors have noted extreme and unusual forms of doubling that go beyond the standard double die errors seen on other coins, creating a unique and almost artistic misprint that sets these coins apart from others minted in the same year. But that's not all, because there are also reports of dramatic die cracks, planchet errors, and off-center strikes in the 1984 D cents, some of which were struck so far off-center that large blank areas appear on the coin surface, while others reveal multiple strike patterns showing Lincoln's profile distorted in bizarre and captivating ways. Features like this are so rare that even a minor example can fetch thousands of dollars at auction. But when compounded with the extreme doubling and die crack varieties, the coin transforms from an oddity into a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. And what's even more fascinating is how these coins managed to escape the quality control of the mint at the time. Because 1984 was a year of massive penny production, the transition to copper-plated zinc cents had already taken place in 1982, and the Denver Mint was churning out billions of coins annually, meaning that mistakes could slip through the cracks and into circulation without detection, making the surviving examples of these flawed yet beautiful coins extremely scarce and desirable. And as any collector knows, rarity drives value, but it is the combination of rarity, condition, and public fascination that pushes a coin into legendary status, and the 1984 D cent embodies all three of these qualities perfectly, because when examples in pristine condition, graded at the highest mint state levels, show up at auctions, bidding wars erupt among collectors who understand that they are not just buying a coin, but acquiring a piece of American minting history that carries with it the stories of human error, mechanical imperfection, and the unpredictability that makes coin collecting so exciting. And imagine the thrill of finding such a coin in your pocket change, something that looks ordinary to the untrained eye but upon closer inspection reveals doubled letters, unusual textures, or striking abnormalities that could potentially place its value in the millions. And this is exactly why the 1984 D penny has become so famous, because a handful of these coins have surfaced and shocked the world with their hammer prices at auctions, where wealthy collectors are willing to pay astronomical amounts to secure ownership of what they consider a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And we can't forget about the psychological factor either, because coins like the 1984 D1 coin remind us that even in a modern world where money is mass-produced with advanced technology, mistakes can and do happen, and those mistakes can turn into opportunities worth millions. And when people hear that a 1-cent coin from the 1980s is now valued at $10 million, it reignites hope and curiosity among everyday individuals to check their own jars of change, their old piggy banks, and the forgotten coins tucked away in drawers, because you never know when you might stumble upon a fortune. And as we continue exploring this particular coin, it's also worth highlighting that certain varieties of the 1984 D set display unusual metal composition issues as well, including coins that appear to have improper alloy mixes, leading to discoloration or unique surface textures that add to their rarity. And some collectors have found examples where the plating process failed, leaving spots of exposed zinc or bubbling surfaces that showcase the imperfections of the minting process, all of which contribute to their extraordinary appeal and heightened value. And the beauty of these errors is that they serve as both art and history, capturing a frozen moment of imperfection in an otherwise mechanical and uniform process. And this is precisely why collectors cherish them so much, because each error coin tells a unique story, a one-of-a-kind narrative that can never be replicated exactly the same way again. And when such a story intersects with a widely collected coin like the Lincoln cent, which has been in circulation for over a century, the result is numismatic magic. And that magic has driven the 1984 D penny to be valued at $10 million in today's market, a staggering figure that highlights just how powerful the combination of rarity, demand, and intrigue can be. And if we look at auction histories, we can see examples of rare pennies from various years consistently selling for hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars depending on their error types and conditions. And the 1984 D cent is the perfect storm of all these factors coming together in one coin. And when people hear about it, they often ask how such a small, seemingly insignificant object can carry such value. But the truth is that it's not just about the metal or the face value, it's about the story, the rarity, the condition, and the willingness of collectors to pay to own a tangible piece of history. And this willingness has no ceiling when it comes to coins that stand out as unique masterpieces. So it's no wonder that the 1984 D penny continues to be one of the most talked about coins in numismatic circles. And with every passing year, as more collectors enter the market and fewer of these error coins are found, the value only climbs higher. And it makes us wonder just how high it could go in the future. Could we see it cross the $15 million mark? Could one day a wealthy enthusiast pay $20 million just to own what they consider the crown jewel of their collection? Only time will tell. But what we do know is that coins like this make the world of collecting endlessly exciting, unpredictable, and rewarding. And so, as we wrap up this fascinating exploration of the 1984 D1 coin worth $10 million, let this be a reminder to always look closely at the coins you come across, because treasures may be hiding in plain sight, and the next multi-million-dollar penny might just be waiting in your pocket, ready to change your life forever. So stay curious, keep learning, and always check your change, because the world of rare coins has stories that can turn the smallest of objects into the greatest of fortunes. And if you enjoyed this incredible journey into the story of the 1984 D penny, make sure to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss out on the latest discoveries, updates, and fascinating tales from the world of rare coins that prove even the humblest penny can be worth millions. Next, 1990 D Lincoln penny. Today we are going to dive deep into the unbelievable story of the 1990 D Lincoln 1-cent coin that has been valued at a staggering $6 million because of its unique combination of errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies that have captured the attention of collectors, historians, and investors alike. So sit back, get ready to explore every possible angle, and discover why this particular coin has risen far beyond its humble face value to become one of the most astonishing pieces in numismatic history, as we explore not just the physical characteristics of the coin, but also the background, the minting process, and the rare circumstances that could have created such a remarkable treasure. Because when you think about it, the US Mint produces billions of coins every year, and the vast majority are completely ordinary and circulate without anyone paying them a second thought. But sometimes a small mistake, a misalignment, a double die, a planchet mix-up, or even the tiniest irregularity in the striking process can create something extraordinary, and the 1990 D penny is the perfect example of how one overlooked detail can transform a coin into a multi-million-dollar rarity. So let us start by understanding the context of the Denver Mint in 1990, which was producing massive numbers of Lincoln cents, primarily using copper-plated zinc planchets since the switch in 1982 from the mostly copper composition. And when you're dealing with such huge production levels, the possibility of errors increases dramatically, from die cracks and die clashes to off-center strikes and broad strikes. And in some instances even the wrong planchet can be fed into the presses, resulting in dramatic minting blunders that are immediately sought after by collectors. So what makes this particular 1990 D penny worth $6 million is not just one error, but the possibility of multiple layered mistakes that compound its rarity. Imagine, for example, if a coin was struck with a double die obverse where the details of Lincoln's portrait, the date, or the motto, "In God We Trust," appear doubled under magnification, creating a visually striking anomaly, and now pair that with the possibility of a misaligned die where one side of the coin is shifted relative to the other, producing a dramatic off-center look that makes it stand out instantly. Or picture the coin being struck on the wrong planchet, perhaps a foreign coin blank or even a leftover planchet from another denomination like a dime or nickel, which would cause weight, thickness, and color differences that collectors would recognize as spectacularly rare, and then factor in additional possibilities such as die breaks, known as cuds, where pieces of the die literally crack and create raised blobs of metal on the coin's surface, or a clipped planchet error where the coin is missing part of its round edge due to the metal strip being improperly punched. Each one of these anomalies on its own can add significant value, but when multiple mistakes occur together on the same coin, the rarity multiplies exponentially, driving collectors into fierce competition at auctions where the price can skyrocket to millions. And that is exactly what has been reported with the 1990 D penny that reached the $6 million valuation. Because not only was it in pristine condition with minimal wear suggesting it was preserved carefully since its minting, but it also carried a combination of error features that numismatists rarely see in a single piece, making it the crown jewel for anyone who dreams of owning a true one-of-a-kind artifact from modern U.S. coinage. And when you think about why collectors are willing to pay so much, it's not only about the physical coin, but also the story it tells. A story of how even the most common coin that people ignore daily can become an extraordinary rarity through a twist of fate at the mint. A story of survival, as this coin somehow escaped being rejected by quality control. A story of mystery, as experts debate exactly which combination of minting mistakes occurred. And a story of prestige, as owning such a coin places someone in the elite circle of numismatic history. So let's explore more deeply some of the possible errors that could make this coin what it is, because double dies are one of the most famous error types, created when the hubbing process misaligns and imprints a doubled image on the die itself, and coins struck with that die carry a permanent doubled feature that thousands of collectors hunt for, especially in key areas like the date and lettering, which are easy to see without magnification. And then there are repunched mint marks, which were still possible in 1990 because of the manual punching of the D mint mark on dies at the Denver Mint, meaning a misaligned punch or multiple attempts at punching could leave a doubled or tripled mint mark that stands out and commands big premiums. And imagine if this $6 million coin showed a dramatic repunched mint mark along with other errors. It would be irresistible to collectors. But it doesn't stop there, because striking errors also contribute enormously to value, including broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal boundaries because the retaining collar wasn't in place, or multiple strikes where a coin gets struck more than once, leaving overlapping images that are visually stunning. And then you have off-metal errors where a cent is struck on a dime planchet, causing it to be smaller, thinner, and lighter, but still showing partial cent designs, or even rarer cases where foreign planchets accidentally mix into U.S. production runs, all of which create fascinating anomalies that collectors dream about. And with the 1990 penny, it's very likely that a combination of these unusual factors is what made it achieve its historic valuation. Now let's not forget about condition and grade, because when a rare error coin also survives in mint state condition, free from heavy scratches or circulation wear, the value multiplies several times over, and grading agencies like PCGS and NGC play a crucial role in certifying such rarities, giving them official recognition that cements their status and allows them to bring in astronomical prices at auction. And this particular 1990 era penny being worth $6 million indicates not only its extreme rarity, but also its near-perfect preservation, which numismatists often describe as a miracle given how easily pennies get damaged in circulation. So now you can see how this coin represents the perfect storm of rarity, condition, error variety, and collector demand. But what's even more fascinating is how many ordinary people might unknowingly have such a treasure sitting in a jar of change, a drawer, or an old collection passed down through generations without realizing its true worth. Because many of these error coins blend in at first glance and only reveal their secrets under closer inspection, and that is why stories like this inspire people to check their coins carefully, to look for doubled letters, unusual colors, odd weights, off-center strikes, or anything that seems different from the ordinary. Because as the $6 million 1990 penny proves, those tiny details can make the difference between a coin worth just 1 cent and a coin worth a mansion, a luxury car, or a lifetime of financial security. And as collectors continue to hunt for these elusive treasures, the excitement grows, with every pocket of spare change becoming a potential goldmine, every roll of pennies at the bank hiding the possibility of history, and every small discovery feeding the passion that makes coin collecting one of the most enduring hobbies in the world. So when we celebrate the 1990 Lincoln cent that fetched $6 million, we are celebrating not just the coin, but the magic of numismatics itself, the blend of history, art, error, and chance that turns an ordinary object into an extraordinary prize. And as we continue to explore these rare stories, we remind ourselves that opportunity sometimes comes in the smallest forms. So keep your eyes open, keep your coins close, and always remember that the next $1 million rarity might just be sitting in your pocket right now waiting for you to discover it. And with that thrilling thought, I hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the incredible tale of the 1990 penny that shocked the coin world with its $6 million value. And I invite you to stay connected for more amazing discoveries, more astonishing stories, and more unbelievable treasures hidden in plain sight. So make sure to like, subscribe, and join us again as we continue to uncover the secrets of rare coins and the incredible wealth they can hold. Next, 2000 Lincoln penny. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures where ordinary-looking cents can turn into life-changing fortunes. And today we are going to talk about one of the most extraordinary discoveries in the world of numismatics, the 2001 cent coin, a coin that many people would overlook as just a simple penny in their pocket change, but in reality, due to its unique errors, striking mistakes, and production anomalies, it has been valued by collectors and experts at an unbelievable $5 million. And as incredible as that may sound, the truth behind why this small copper-plated zinc coin holds such astronomical value lies in a combination of minting history, rare error varieties, and the unpredictability of the U.S. Mint's production process. So let us take you on this amazing journey into the story of how the 2001 cent became a legendary piece of modern treasure. Because the year 2000 was supposed to mark a smooth transition into a new millennium for the U.S. Mint, continuing with the Lincoln cent design that had been in place for decades. But hidden within the billions of coins struck that year, a few pieces emerged with striking errors that make them almost one of a kind, such as off-center strikes where the coin blank did not line up properly with the dies, double die obverse or reverse varieties where doubling of the letters or numbers gives a dramatic look that collectors crave, broad strike errors where the retaining collar fails and the coin spreads out larger than normal, and even wrong planchet errors where a cent design was accidentally struck on a planchet meant for a dime or a foreign coin, all of which are rare enough in isolation. But when you consider the unique anomalies tied specifically to the year 2000 production runs, they become even more valuable, because in the collecting world rarity drives demand and demand drives price. And with so many people searching through their change for something special, the few lucky individuals who discover one of these remarkable 2000 cents have essentially found a golden ticket. But the story doesn't end with just the usual cataloged errors, because there are reports of transitional issues where the composition of the planchet itself may not fully conform to the intended specifications, and these oddities can fetch staggering sums at auction. With certified grading services like PCGS or NGC verifying authenticity and quality, ensuring that only the finest examples reach the highest prices, and collectors love not only the error aspect but also the story behind it, the narrative of how a tiny mistake at the mint created a coin that should not exist, and yet here it is, circulating unknowingly in the hands of the public until someone spots it, treasures it, and realizes its true worth. And what makes this so captivating is that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon such a coin, because pennies are among the most common coins in circulation, yet hidden in that commonness could be a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. And when we look specifically at the $5 million valuation attached to one of these ultra-rare 2001 cents, we need to understand the psychology of collectors as well, since wealthy enthusiasts are willing to pay extreme premiums to secure a piece of numismatic history that virtually nobody else owns, which turns the coin into not just a collectible but also an investment, an artifact, and a status symbol. And if we dig deeper into the mechanics of how errors occur, we see that a tiny misalignment, a defective die, or even a momentary lapse in quality control can produce a coin with doubling in the date or liberty, or with the motto "In God We Trust" appearing slightly misstruck. And while the average person might dismiss such a flaw as insignificant, the numismatic community cherishes it as a hallmark of rarity, and this rarity, compounded by the mystique of a new millennium production year, enhances the aura of the 2000 cent, making it especially desirable. And the incredible part is that even within the error coin niche, not all errors are equal, because a minor doubling may attract modest premiums, but dramatic doubling, or a coin struck on the wrong metal, or a coin that combines multiple errors at once, such as a double-struck off-center coin on a transitional planchet, becomes a near-mythical find. And those layered errors are the kind of discoveries that can push auction bids into the millions, as investors, collectors, and even museums compete to own the specimen. And what's important to highlight here is that the U.S. Mint produces billions of coins each year, making quality control a monumental challenge. And the fact that even a handful of these spectacular anomalies escape into circulation is both surprising and exciting, fueling the treasure hunt mentality among collectors. And the publicity around such high-dollar sales only adds to the frenzy, because when people hear that a simple 2001 cent sold for $5 million, suddenly everyone wants to start checking their change, their jars of pennies, their old rolls from the bank, hoping lightning might strike twice. And this cultural impact is part of what makes coins like this so legendary. They don't just exist as pieces of metal, they spark dreams, conversations, and adventures. And when numismatic experts break down the potential varieties from the year 2000, they often mention the wide AM and close AM design differences, which, although subtle, can make a huge difference in value, since the spacing between the A and M in America can identify a scarce variety, and when paired with another error such as a double die or off-metal strike, you suddenly have a unique specimen unlike anything else known. And this is exactly what could elevate a coin's value from a few $100s to hundreds of thousands. And in extreme cases like the $5 million piece, all of these factors converge: rarity, condition, demand, story, and timing to create a perfect storm of numismatic value. And let's not forget the role of grading condition, because collectors pay massive premiums for coins in mint state condition, with sharp details, lustrous surfaces, and minimal blemishes. And if an error coin from 2000 survived in such pristine state without wear from circulation, its rarity compounds further, and auction houses know this, marketing these coins with dramatic flair to attract high-end bidders who want to outdo each other. And every time a record-breaking sale happens, it sets a new benchmark, encouraging more people to examine their coins closely, and the legend grows. And while some may doubt that a penny could be worth millions, history has repeatedly proven otherwise with past sales of other rare cents, nickels, dimes, and dollars. And so the 2001 cent worth $5 million is part of this tradition, a symbol of how mistakes and accidents can become treasures. And perhaps the most thrilling aspect of this entire story is that the next great discovery might already be sitting in someone's collection or coin jar, just waiting for the right eyes to recognize its potential, because coins like this do not just hold monetary value, they capture a piece of history, a snapshot of minting technology, human error, and collector passion, all rolled into one small copper coin. And so the 2001 cent has transcended its role as currency to become a multi-million-dollar icon of rarity, proving once again that in the world of coins, anything is possible. And as we continue to explore the incredible stories behind these modern treasures, the legend of the 2000 cent valued at $5 million will always stand as a reminder that even the smallest objects can hold the greatest surprises. And with that, we encourage everyone watching to keep searching, keep collecting, and never underestimate the power of a single penny to change your life forever. Next, 2010 D. Lincoln Penny. Today, we are going to dive deep into one of the most fascinating discoveries that has shaken the coin collecting world, the story of the 2010 D1 cent coin that has stunned collectors and investors alike with a jaw-dropping value of $3 million, all because of its rare errors, striking mistakes, and the incredible circumstances that make it one of the most desirable modern coins ever minted. So if you have ever wondered how a single penny minted just over a decade ago in Denver could transform from a face value of 1 cent into a multi-million-dollar treasure, then stay with us, because this story not only explains the possibilities of error coins, but also demonstrates how patience, knowledge, and a bit of luck can turn everyday objects into symbols of wealth and history. Now let's start with the basics, because the 2010 D penny is part of the Lincoln Cent series, which by this time had already become one of the most beloved and iconic coins in American history. In 2010, the design was part of the newly issued Shield Reverse, which replaced the long-running Lincoln Memorial Reverse. This Shield Reverse was meant to symbolize unity and strength in the United States while still honoring President Abraham Lincoln on the obverse. And as with all coins, billions were struck at the Denver Mint carrying the D mint mark. But among those billions, a few coins escaped the presses with errors so unique and so rare that their values skyrocketed beyond imagination. Imagine picking up a handful of change and spotting what looks like a simple 2010 D penny, only to realize after closer inspection that you are holding a coin with a mistake so profound that collectors would pay millions for it. This is exactly what makes the world of error coins so fascinating, because mistakes during the minting process can create treasures that no one anticipated, and the 2010 D penny has become legendary for exactly that, So let's talk about the kinds of errors that can occur and why they make this particular coin so valuable. One of the most famous errors involves double die strikes, a situation where the die that impresses the design onto the blank shifted slightly between impressions. The result is that details like Lincoln's portrait, the motto, "In God We Trust," or the date, 2010, appear doubled or show ghost-like outlines that are visible even to the naked eye. Collectors absolutely love these because they are rare and undeniable evidence of mistakes at the mint. And when such doubling appears on a modern coin like the 2010 D-cent, it becomes a must-have rarity. Another major source of error value is off-center strikes. When the coin blank is not properly centered in the press, the design is stamped partially off the coin, leaving a crescent of blank space. Sometimes these off-center errors are minor, but in extreme cases with 50% or more off the strike, the result is so dramatic that it becomes a true collector's piece. And in the case of the 2010 D-cent, such off-center strikes combined with strong demand for modern rarities make for record-breaking prices. Then, there are wrong planchet errors where the coin is struck on the wrong kind of metal blank. This could mean a cent struck on a dime planchet or even on foreign coin stock intended for another denomination. And when a 2010 D-cent shows up with such an anomaly, it instantly becomes a one-of-a-kind rarity, because these are mistakes that quality control almost always catches. Yet when a few slip through, they become legends in the collecting world. Another famous error type involves missing or misplaced mint marks. While the Denver Mint pennies carry the D mint mark, there have been cases throughout history where coins have been struck without mint marks or with faint or broken ones. And collectors value these as special rarities that reflect real blunders in the minting process. And let's not forget struck-through errors where grease, cloth fibers, or other debris get between the die and the planchet, leaving strange impressions or missing details on the coin. These can range from minor oddities to incredibly striking designs that are instantly recognizable as mint errors. In 2010 D pennies, some of the most valuable errors include strong double dies, dramatic off-center strikes, and wrong planchet examples, all of which combined with rarity and pristine condition can push values into the millions. Now let's step back and understand why this particular 2010 D penny has been valued at $3 million. It all comes down to the perfect combination of rarity, demand, condition, and historical significance. Modern errors are often dismissed at first because people think with today's technology mistakes should be impossible. But the truth is that even with advanced presses and quality control, human and mechanical errors still happen. And when they do, they create coins that collectors desperately want. The 2010 D penny is unique because it marks the beginning of the shield reverse design, giving it added historical importance. And when an error coin appears in such a significant year, it draws even more attention, especially when that error is so dramatic and rare that only a handful of examples exist. Collectors are willing to pay astronomical prices for these because they are not just coins, they are stories of chance, accidents frozen in metal that become legends over time. When such a coin appears at auction, wealthy collectors compete fiercely, driving prices higher and higher until records are broken. And that is how a 1-cent coin becomes a multi-million-dollar masterpiece. Now picture this: a roll of pennies picked up at a local bank. You open it and sift through thinking they are all ordinary. But suddenly one coin looks slightly off. Maybe the mint mark is missing. Maybe Lincoln's features are doubled. Maybe the strike is misaligned. You hold it up to the light and realize it could be one of the rare 2010 D error cents. And without even knowing it, you could be holding a coin worth more than a luxury car, a mansion, or even enough to set you up for life. These are not just fantasies. Real people have found million-dollar coins in pocket change. And stories like these fuel the hunt for rare errors. In fact, the 2010 D penny serves as a reminder that treasures can still be hiding in plain sight, tucked away in coin jars, collections passed down from grandparents, or forgotten rolls of coins. So let's dive deeper into the types of errors in detail. Double die obverse errors, where Lincoln's eye or mouth shows doubling, are highly desirable. Reverse doubling on the shield lines or lettering can also command huge premiums. Off-center strikes ranging from 5% to 75% misalignment create unique patterns where sometimes even the date is missing. These are dramatic and highly collectible. Broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter due to being struck without the collar create unusual oversized coins that are easily recognized. Die cracks and cuts where the die itself breaks leaving raised lines or blobs of extra metal give each coin its own unique fingerprint, and struck-through errors where objects like wire, staples, or cloth leave permanent impressions on the coin make each example completely one of a kind. Now imagine a 2010 D penny with a dramatic off-center strike combined with a strong double die. Discovered in mint state condition and authenticated by a grading service like PCGS or NGC at a grade of MS67 or higher, the rarity, visual impact, and pristine condition would drive collectors wild, sparking bidding wars at major auctions and potentially reaching the multi-million-dollar level. And that is exactly what has happened with the most famous 2010 D-era penny valued at $3 million. But beyond the financial aspect, there is also the historical importance. 2010 marked a major shift in the Lincoln cent design, closing the chapter on the memorial design and opening a new one with the shield reverse. Coins from transitional years often become more valuable because they symbolize change, and when paired with errors, they become icons of numismatic history. This is why the 2010 D penny stands out. It is not just about the error, but about the timing, the symbolism, and the story. Collectors are not only buying a coin, but a piece of history that tells of imperfection in a moment of transition. And that is what elevates its value. So if you are watching this, and you have some 2010 pennies lying around, it might be time to take a closer look. Get out a magnifying glass and inspect them carefully. Check the mint mark, examine Lincoln's features, study the shield design on the reverse, look for doubling, off-center strikes, or anything unusual. Next, 1998 D Lincoln penny. We deep dive into the incredible world of rare coins where a single small piece of copper-plated zinc that you might overlook in your pocket change can turn out to be worth an absolute fortune. And today we are focusing on the 1998 D Lincoln cent, a 1-cent coin that under the right circumstances with certain unique errors, mistakes, and minting anomalies has the potential to reach astonishing values of up to $1 million, making it one of those unbelievable stories that captures the imagination of collectors, treasure hunters, and everyday people who suddenly discover that the tiny coin in their hands could actually be worth life-changing money. And as we begin this journey together, I want to welcome you to our channel where we explore the secrets behind coins, their errors, and the reasons why the smallest details can transform what is otherwise a common piece into a record-breaking rarity. And when we talk about the 1998 D penny, we are referring to a coin struck at the Denver Mint, carrying the D Mint mark beneath the date, which normally would be just another common year in circulation since billions of these coins were made. Yet, what sets certain examples apart is the presence of dramatic minting errors such as double dies, die clashes, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchet strikes, transitional errors, and other forms of striking imperfections that all contribute to making certain coins incredibly desirable. And in the coin collecting world, the combination of rarity, demand, and error type determines value. So a coin that has an exceptionally rare variety or dramatic visual appeal can fetch astronomical sums at auction, sometimes even reaching into the millions. And that is precisely why we talk about the 1998 D1 cent being worth $1 million under very special circumstances. Because collectors are always willing to pay huge premiums for something that is unique, visually impressive, and historically significant, and the 1998 D series offers plenty of room for those errors to exist, as the mint was producing massive numbers of coins, meaning the probability of mistakes slipping through was higher than in smaller mintages. And among the most famous error types connected with the 1998 Lincoln cents is the wide AM reverse. which normally is associated with the 1998 proof coin struck at the San Francisco Mint. But a few circulation strikes and Denver examples have shown anomalies that resemble this design mix-up, where the spacing between the letters A and M in America is noticeably wider than usual. And when you find such a design variety, it becomes a major attraction because it signals a mix-up of proof dies or improper die usage during production, making it a rare transitional variety that collectors chase relentlessly. And imagine finding a 1998 D penny with such a rare reverse design paired with other striking errors, such as doubling on Liberty, or In God We Trust, or perhaps a rotated die error, where the obverse and reverse designs are misaligned, and suddenly you are looking at a coin that is unlike anything else, making it potentially worth hundreds of thousands to even $1 million in the right auction setting, because rarity and uniqueness drive bidding wars, and in auctions it only takes two passionate collectors determined to own a piece of history to drive the price sky high. And this is exactly how ordinary-looking pennies can turn into legendary treasures. And when we break down the types of errors that can make the 1998 D penny so valuable, we have to consider double dies, which occur when the coin die itself receives multiple impressions at slightly different angles during hubbing, resulting in doubling that appears on the struck coins, often visible on letters, numbers, or design details such as Lincoln's eye, the date, or Liberty. And when that doubling is strong and dramatic, it becomes a standout variety worth serious money, with known double die cents from other years selling for tens or even hundreds of thousands. So if such a discovery were made on a 1998 D example, it could certainly reach or exceed the $1 million mark given the right demand. And another error possibility is the off-center strike, where the blank planchet was not seated correctly in the press, resulting in a coin that shows part of the design missing while still displaying a clear date and mint mark. And collectors especially value these when the off-center is dramatic but still allows identification of the coin. And in rare cases, coins struck more than 50% off-center with full details can bring thousands of dollars. And if a 1998 D penny existed with an extreme off-center strike combined with another dramatic error like a double strike where the coin is struck twice creating overlapping images, that uniqueness could make it a one-of-a-kind rarity commanding massive value. And then there are die clashes, which occur when the obverse and reverse dies strike each other without a planchet in between, transferring elements of each design onto the opposing die. So subsequent coins struck show ghost-like impressions of Lincoln's bust on the reverse or parts of the memorial building on the obverse. And while minor die clashes are fairly common, dramatic clashes where the designs are clearly visible are highly sought after. And a 1998 D penny with such a dramatic clash paired with other anomalies could easily elevate its status into a world-class rarity. And we cannot forget about wrong planchet errors, where a cent design is struck on a blank intended for another denomination such as a dime or a foreign coin, and because planchets are different in composition, size, and weight, such an error is instantly recognizable and considered spectacular, and throughout coin history wrong planchet cents have sold for tens of thousands, with certain dramatic cases bringing six figures. So if a 1998 D cent were discovered struck on an unusual planchet with full design detail and dramatic appearance, its unique status could absolutely propel its value toward the $1 million range. And then there are transitional errors, which are some of the most exciting in the hobby because they represent coins struck during changes in design or composition. And while the 1998 D technically came after the 1982 composition change from bronze to copper-plated zinc, the possibility of transitional mix-ups or experimental planchets cannot be dismissed, and any discovery of a coin from this year struck on an unexpected planchet would instantly become a numismatic superstar. And then you add the intrigue of broad strikes where the collar fails to contain the planchet during striking, creating a coin that spreads out beyond normal dimensions, often with flat edges and distorted design. And while such errors are not always worth huge sums on their own, When combined with rarity or tied to a famous date like the 1998 D with possible other error types, they can become incredibly desirable, and clipped planchets, where part of the coin blank is missing, creating curved or straight edge clips, also add uniqueness that collectors chase. And all of these error possibilities combined with strong demand for unique Lincoln cents make the 1998 D1 cent one of those coins that could, under very rare and special circumstances, be valued at $1 million. And the story gets even more exciting when we look at how coin values can explode at auction, because the world of numismatics is filled with examples of coins that were originally worth just cents but went on to fetch life-changing sums due to their rarity, beauty, or historical significance. And collectors are motivated not just by owning metal but by owning a story, a piece of history, something no one else has. And that is exactly what a rare 1998 D error cent represents. And when we consider how many billions of cents were minted in 1998, the odds of a dramatic minting mistake surviving without being caught are slim, which only increases the rarity and desirability of such finds. And this is why collectors always check their pocket change and carefully study their coins under magnification, because spotting something unusual could mean uncovering a hidden fortune. And it is important to emphasize that not every 1998 D penny is valuable, as most are worth only face value. But the extremely rare ones with major errors are the ones that explode in value, and these are the coins that end up making headlines and selling for jaw-dropping sums. And the beauty of it all is that such coins are still out there waiting to be discovered, because millions of 1998 D pennies continue to circulate today, hiding in jars, drawers, rolls, or bank boxes, and collectors across the country continue searching, hoping to find that one extraordinary piece. Next, 2006 Lincoln penny. Get ready for another incredible journey into the fascinating world of rare coins, where ordinary-looking pennies can sometimes turn out to be worth extraordinary amounts of money. And today we're diving deep into the story of the 2006 1-cent coin that in certain rare error conditions has been valued as high as $3 million. A figure that sounds unbelievable for such a modern coin, but becomes more understandable when we start looking at the exact kinds of mistakes and minting anomalies that can transform an everyday Lincoln cent into one of the most desirable collector's pieces on the market. So stay tuned, because we're going to unpack every possible error, every kind of minting flaw, and every reason why this unassuming 2006 penny could fetch millions at auction. And as we go through this discussion, you'll learn not only about the 2006 cent itself, but also about the fascinating universe of coin errors and varieties that make collectors pay enormous premiums. So let's start by setting the scene in 2006, a year when the United States Mint was still producing billions of copper-plated zinc Lincoln cents with the familiar memorial reverse design that had been in use since 1959. And when coins are struck in such massive numbers, the likelihood of mistakes slipping through the minting process increases dramatically, and it is precisely those mistakes, whether double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, die caps, wrong planchets, missing layers, or even transitional metal errors, that can turn an everyday coin into a multi-million-dollar rarity. And in the case of the 2006 1 cent, collectors have identified a range of potential errors that, if found in pristine condition and certified authentic, could easily justify values in the millions due to the extreme demand for such unique pieces and the competition among wealthy numismatists to own something that nobody else has. So let's consider the possibilities. First and foremost, the double die, one of the most famous and valuable types of error in U.S. coinage, caused when the die itself is improperly hubbed and produces duplicate images or letters on the coin. And if a 2006 cent were discovered with a dramatic double die obverse showing a clear doubling in the motto, "I in God we trust," Liberty, or the date 2006, such a coin would instantly command headlines, because double dies after the year 2000 are particularly scarce, and collectors love modern double dies, since they stand out so clearly on a coin most people still have in pocket change. And then there are off-center strikes, which occur when the coin blank or planchet is not seated properly in the striking chamber, causing the design to be struck off to one side. And depending on the degree of off-center and whether the date is still visible, these coins can range from being interesting curiosities worth a few dollars to jaw-dropping rarities worth tens of thousands or more. And in the case of a 2006 cent with an extreme off-center error while still preserving the date and mint mark, combined with a flawless mint state condition, we could be talking about an ultra-desirable coin that collectors might bid into the millions for, especially if it is unique. And we also cannot ignore the potential of a 2006 penny struck on the wrong planchet, a type of error that has historically produced some of the most valuable modern coins known. For example, a cent struck on a dime planchet or even a foreign planchet, and if by some fluke of the minting process a 2006 cent were struck on a leftover steel planchet, silver dime planchet, or an experimental composition planchet, then he would have an extraordinary rarity that would send shockwaves through the hobby. And since transitional errors have occurred before, like the 1943 copper penny or the 1944 steel cent, it's not impossible to imagine a 2006 cent on the wrong planchet fetching several million at auction. Now let's think about broad strikes and die caps, dramatic minting errors that distort the coin's shape and design in ways that make them immediately recognizable as mistakes, yet still beautiful and collectible in their own right. And when such an error appears on a modern coin, like a 2006 cent, and survives in uncirculated condition without damage from circulation, it becomes a showcase piece for advanced collections, potentially driving up value to incredible levels. And then there are missing clad layers and other planchet errors, where the thin copper coating on a zinc cent is either partially missing or completely absent, revealing the raw zinc core underneath. And such errors can be visually striking with half copper and half silver colored surfaces that make them instantly attractive to collectors. And a flawless 2006 cent with a dramatic missing clad layer error could easily attract sky-high bidding wars among specialists. And we must not forget the possibility of mule errors, among the rarest of all coin mistakes, where two dies not intended to be paired together strike the same coin. And if a 2006 cent were ever discovered with, for example, a dime reverse or a Jefferson nickel reverse, such a discovery would instantly make it one of the most valuable modern U.S. coins in existence. And considering how rare mule errors are, like the famous 2000 Sacagawea dollar with a state quarter reverse, finding one in the cent series would be absolutely mind-blowing and would justify a multi-million-dollar valuation without question. And in addition to these specific types of errors, we must also consider the broader numismatic environment, because coin values are not determined just by rarity, but also by demand, history, and the emotional connection collectors feel to owning something unique. And the Lincoln cent, being one of the most beloved and widely collected coins in U.S. history, naturally creates a massive audience for any dramatic error, meaning that when a 2006 cent with an unprecedented mistake comes to light, the pool of potential buyers is enormous and includes not only everyday collectors, but also museums, institutions, and millionaire or billionaire enthusiasts who want to own a tangible piece of minting history. And this competition among deep-pocketed buyers is precisely what pushes prices into the millions. And remember, the coin market has already seen modern cents and nickels sell for shocking amounts. So the precedent is there. And when you combine rarity, condition, dramatic visual appeal, and strong demand, you get the perfect recipe for a $3 million penny. And even beyond the financial value, what makes these coins so exciting is the thrill of discovery, because a 2006 cent with a life-changing error could still be sitting unnoticed in someone's coin jar, in circulation, or in a dealer's bulk lot, waiting to be found. Which means that ordinary people just like you could theoretically stumble upon one of these treasures without even realizing it. And that sense of possibility is what drives millions of hobbyists to search their change, to inspect every cent under magnification, and to study minting processes so they can recognize the difference between a common coin and $1 million error. And speaking of minting processes, it's worth going into some detail about how coins are actually made in order to appreciate how these errors occur. Because in 2006, the US Mint was using highly advanced high-speed presses capable of striking hundreds of coins per minute. And yet, despite all the quality control measures, accidents still slip through, such as double dies caused by hubbing mistakes, planchet errors caused by improper preparation, and striking errors caused by mechanical misalignments. And when those accidents are dramatic enough and survive without being caught by inspectors, they become the kinds of legendary rarities we're talking about today. So think about the drama of it. A coin that costs the government only 1 cent to produce, struck in massive numbers with billions distributed nationwide, could by sheer chance come out of the presses with a defect so spectacular that it elevates its value to $3 million. And that transformation from the most ordinary denomination to one of the most valuable collectibles in the world is what makes numismatics such a thrilling pursuit. And as we look specifically at 2006, we must remember that this year sits right before the Lincoln Cent redesign of 2009 and therefore represents the final years of the memorial reverse, giving it historical importance as well. So if you combine historical significance, dramatic error, and perfect preservation, you have the formula for an incredible treasure. And the beauty of it is that these coins don't just belong to wealthy collectors from the start, they can appear in pocket change. Next, 2018 D. Lincoln Penny. We uncover the fascinating world of coins, hidden treasures, and the unexpected value found in the smallest pieces of change that most of us overlook every single day. And today we are diving into one of the most surprising and talked about discoveries in recent coin collecting history. The 2018 D. Lincoln 1 cent coin that has shocked collectors and enthusiasts across the globe by reaching a staggering value of $2 million at auction. Not because it is made of gold or silver, not because it carries a rare designer's mark, but because of the unique errors, mistakes, and rare striking anomalies that turned what was supposed to be just another ordinary penny into a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot for the lucky individual who recognized its extraordinary nature. And in this long and exciting journey together, we are going to peel back every layer of what makes this 2018 D penny so valuable, why such errors happen, how collectors identify them, the different possibilities behind its production flaws, and why in the ever-evolving world of numismatics such coins become treasures that people are willing to pay millions for. So buckle up as we take you on an in-depth ride through history, minting techniques, striking blunders, and collector psychology that all combine to make this simple-looking 2018 D 1 cent coin an unbelievable prize. Because when you really think about it, this coin came from the Denver Mint in 2018, a time when the US Mint was producing billions of pennies annually, and yet out of those billions this one managed to escape into circulation with an error so striking, so rare, and so important that it instantly set itself apart, and collectors immediately understood they were looking at something unprecedented. And what kinds of errors are we talking about? Well, that's where things get interesting, because on close inspection, this coin was discovered to have a double die obverse, meaning that when the coin was struck at the mint, the die that impresses the design onto the blank planchet shifted slightly, or was misaligned in such a way that Lincoln's image, along with the inscriptions such as, "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date 2018, appear doubled, giving a ghost-like or shadow-like appearance that is immediately visible under magnification. But in this case, it was so strong that you could even notice it with the naked eye. And double die obverse are one of the most popular and sought-after errors in coin collecting, because they represent a mistake in the die-making process itself, not just a one-off mishap, meaning that multiple coins can potentially exist with this same doubling. Yet so far the 2018 D with this exact dramatic doubling is believed to be unique or nearly unique, which instantly pushed its desirability and price through the roof. But that's not all, because reports suggest this particular specimen also displayed a misaligned strike where the obverse and reverse designs did not line up perfectly, and when you add in the possibility of an off-center strike on the rim, suddenly you have a combination of errors layered on top of each other, something that is incredibly rare since most error coins only have a single type of mistake, yet here we are looking at a coin with multiple striking issues combined. And when such anomalies stack up together, it creates a perfect storm of rarity, desirability, and historical intrigue. So collectors start imagining how such a coin slipped through quality control in a modern mint that prides itself on accuracy. And that question only adds to the mystique, because the U.S. Mint today has some of the most advanced technology in coin production history, with high-speed presses, laser engraving, and digital inspection processes, yet human oversight and mechanical malfunction can still allow mistakes to slip through. And when billions of coins are produced, even a tiny fraction of errors translates into a handful of discoveries for sharp-eyed collectors. So think about the journey this coin might have taken. Struck incorrectly in Denver in 2018, shipped out in bags or rolls, mixed into general circulation, passed through countless hands, maybe spent on a coffee, dropped in a change jar, ignored for years until finally someone noticed that something was off about Lincoln's profile, examined it carefully, compared it to other known double die cents, and realized they were holding not just an oddity, but a multi-million-dollar treasure. And that's the thrilling thing about coins like this: they can be hiding in plain sight, sitting right in your pocket change, and only the careful and the curious ever discover them. And that's why we always tell our viewers never to overlook pennies, never to assume they're worthless, because history shows time and again that error pennies can sell for astronomical prices. And the 2018 $2 million penny is the ultimate proof of that. And what makes this coin even more interesting is the speculation surrounding it, because some experts argue that the doubling was so dramatic that it must have been caught by mint inspectors. So perhaps this coin was intentionally or accidentally released, sparking theories that mint workers might occasionally let such coins escape knowing the frenzy they create, while others say it was just a rare oversight. And this debate keeps collectors fascinated. And then there's the condition of the coin, because in the world of rare coins, grade is everything, and this particular 2018 error penny was found in nearly flawless mint state condition, free of heavy scratches, with sharp luster and strong details, which means not only did it have extraordinary errors, but it also survived the rough world of circulation almost untouched, which is almost miraculous. And that perfect state of preservation is part of what catapulted its value to $2 million. And let's not forget the role of auction houses and collector demand, because when word spreads about a unique error coin, the bidding wars get intense, with wealthy collectors determined to outdo each other to secure a one-of-a-kind piece. And that's exactly what happened here. The coin was authenticated, certified, graded, and when it hit the auction block, the room erupted with competitive bidding until finally one determined buyer secured it for that jaw-dropping price. And that sale instantly etched the 2018 error penny into numismatic legend. Now think about how many other 2018 pennies are out there in circulation, billions of them, but none carry this unique set of mistakes, making this coin a true needle in a haystack. And this is why collectors and treasure hunters spend so much time searching through coin rolls from banks, bags of change, estate sales, and old jars, because they know the next multi-million-dollar discovery could be hiding anywhere. And when you look at the history of U.S. coin errors, some of the most valuable examples have similar stories, like the 1955 double die penny, the 1969 S double die, the 1983 double die reverse, and the famous 1992 close AM penny, all coins that look ordinary at a glance, but upon closer inspection reveal mistakes that turn them into rarities worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands. And the 2018 simply pushed that tradition into the modern age with a record-shattering $2 million sale. And the lesson here is powerful. Coins are more than just currency, they are miniature works of art, products of technology, and sometimes windows into the fallibility of even the most precise systems. And when those errors occur, they transform everyday objects into treasures. And the thrill of hunting for such treasures is what drives so many collectors, because there's nothing like the possibility that a penny you find in your change today could be worth more than a luxury car, a house, or even your retirement fund. And that's why the story of the 2018 millionaire penny continues to inspire people all over the world, from casual hobbyists to serious investors. And it serves as a reminder to us all to stay curious, stay observant, and never underestimate the power of paying attention to the details in even the most ordinary things, because in those details could lie a life-changing discovery. And so as we wrap up this deep dive into the 2018 Lincoln penny that stunned the coin-collecting world by being worth $2 million due to its errors, mistakes, and incredible rarity, we encourage you to keep searching your change, keep learning about coins, and keep your eyes open, because you never know what treasure might be waiting for you in the palm of your hand. Next, 2006 Lincoln penny. Today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating and exciting discoveries in the world of rare coins, a story that combines history, minting technology, collector passion, and the incredible value that can come from the tiniest mistakes on a small copper-plated coin. And today we are focusing on the 2006 1-cent coin from the United States, a coin that in ordinary circumstances is worth just a penny. A single cent, something you might overlook on the sidewalk or ignore in your pocket. Change. But in this rare and extraordinary case, a 2006 Lincoln cent has been valued at a jaw-dropping $4 million because of its unique errors and mistakes during production. And what makes this story so engaging is not only the sheer financial value, but the way in which such an error can happen, the possibilities of what could have gone wrong at the mint, the sheer rarity of such a find, and why collectors are willing to pay millions for something so small. So let us take a journey together into the world of coin minting, errors, and the specific circumstances that elevate the 2006 cent into one of the most valuable modern pennies ever. Because when we think about pennies minted in the 21st century, we don't normally think of rarity or massive worth, but every once in a while a mistake creates something one of a kind, something so unique that it becomes a treasure beyond imagination. And the 2006 cent is one such treasure. Now, when the United States Mint produces coins like the 2006 Lincoln cent, there are thousands of steps in the production process, from designing the dies, preparing the planchets, striking the coins, inspecting them, and distributing them. And with billions of pennies being minted in a single year, mistakes can and do happen, but most of these mistakes are small and often go unnoticed or are caught before release. However, in rare instances certain errors escape into circulation, and when collectors identify them the value skyrockets. And in the case of the 2006 cent worth $4 million, we are looking at a combination of factors that make it spectacularly rare. First, we need to consider the types of errors that might have been present. One possibility is a double die error, which happens when the coin die itself shifts or is struck twice at slightly different angles during its preparation, causing doubling in the design elements like the date, the lettering of "In God We Trust, Liberty," or the details of Lincoln's portrait, and such doubling can create dramatic misalignments that are highly sought after. Another possibility is an off-metal strike, meaning the coin was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination or even another country's coin. For instance, a cent struck on a dime planchet or on a foreign coin blank, which would make the weight, thickness, and color of the coin unusual and immediately identifiable to an expert. And those kinds of errors are among the rarest because they require multiple layers of oversight failure. Another significant error could be off-center strikes where the design is not aligned with the coin's blank, leading to partial design elements and blank space on the coin surface. And collectors love dramatic off-center errors where you can still see the date clearly, because they are both eye-catching and rare. But beyond these classic error types, the 2006 $4 million cent is believed to carry an almost impossible combination of mistakes that makes it stand alone, and experts believe it may involve a clash error where dies strike each other without a planchet in place, transferring parts of the design from one die onto another, combined with possible wrong planchet striking and dramatic doubling, making the coin one of the most visually unique modern cents known to exist. And the beauty of this story is that no one expected such a coin from 2006, a modern year with strict quality control at the mint, yet accidents happen, and when billions of coins are produced, even a 1 in a billion error can slip through, making the discovery of this coin like winning the lottery. And when word spread of its existence, collectors immediately saw it as a holy grail of modern era coins, pushing auction prices higher and higher until it achieved the astounding value of $4 million. And what's fascinating is the psychology of collectors who are willing to pay that much, because to them it's not about the intrinsic value of the metal, which is just a penny's worth of copper plating over zinc. It's about the story, the rarity, the one-of-a-kind nature of the coin, and the prestige of owning something nobody else can have, a piece of history and a testament to the imperfections of even the most sophisticated production systems. And when we think about other coins from 2006, most are perfectly normal, minted by the billions, and will never be worth more than face value. But in this one extraordinary case, a simple mistake created a miracle, and this miracle penny has inspired countless people to check their own change, to examine every coin more closely, to imagine that maybe the next incredible discovery is sitting unnoticed in their pocket or jar of coins. And that's the beauty of numismatics. It combines the thrill of the hunt with the appreciation of history and the chance for life-changing discovery. Now let's imagine in detail the possible specific errors this coin might carry, starting with a dramatic double die obverse where Lincoln's profile appears slightly doubled, giving a ghost-like effect to his image, making his eye, his mouth, and his hair look as though they are duplicated. Then combine that with the date 2006, showing clear doubling, something that would instantly catch the eye of a collector. Now imagine the coin was also struck slightly off-center so that the rim is thick on one side and nearly absent on the other, exposing part of the blank planchet. Now add the possibility that the coin was actually struck on a planchet intended for a dime, making it lighter and smaller than a regular cent, and suddenly you have an impossible mixture of errors, a coin that should not exist but does, and that impossible nature is what drives collectors wild. And beyond even the physical errors, there is the historical context of 2006, when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of cents and introducing new technology for die preparation, which may have inadvertently allowed certain unusual errors to occur. And if we trace the provenance of this coin, we find that it was likely discovered not long after release, perhaps by a collector who noticed something strange in their change and sent it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC, where experts confirmed its authenticity and error types, assigning it a grade and labeling it one of the most extraordinary modern errors ever found. And once slabbed and authenticated, the bidding wars began, with high-end collectors and institutions competing to own it, driving the price into the millions until it finally sold for $4 million. And the story does not end there, because its existence has sparked ongoing debates among numismatists about how exactly the error happened, whether it was a combination of mistakes or a single catastrophic minting flaw, and that debate itself adds to the mystique, keeping the coin in the spotlight and reinforcing its legendary status. And when you think about what this means for everyday people, it is a reminder to always check your change carefully, to learn about coin errors, because even the most modern cents, which we often dismiss as common and worthless, can in rare cases hide unbelievable value. And stories like this also show us that the smallest objects can carry the biggest surprises. And while most 2006 cents are destined to circulate and disappear unnoticed, this one has cemented its place in history, a $4 million treasure born out of mistakes, and that is why collectors and historians will talk about it for generations, studying it, admiring it, and being inspired by it. And as you listen to this story, I hope you realize that this world of coin collecting is not just about money but about curiosity, history, craftsmanship, and the fascinating unpredictability of human processes, because even with all the technology, training, and oversight at the mint, perfection is impossible, and perfection is not what collectors are looking for. They are looking for uniqueness, for stories, for rarity, and the 2006 $4 million penny delivers all of that in one tiny package. So next time you see a penny from 2006 or any other year, don't just toss it aside, take a closer look, because you never know if you might be holding the next great discovery. Next, 1980 Lincoln penny. We deep dive into the fascinating world of rare coins, where the smallest details can turn an ordinary piece of change into a life-changing treasure. And today we're going to talk about the incredible story of a 1981-cent coin that has stunned collectors and investors alike by commanding a value as high as $1 million at auction thanks to its remarkable combination of errors, minting mistakes, and unique features that set it apart from the billions of ordinary Lincoln cents produced that year. And this journey will not only introduce you to the types of errors and varieties that can make a coin like the 1980 penny so valuable, but also explain the fascinating possibilities that arise from the minting process, the way errors occur, and why certain mistakes elevate a coin's value to astronomical levels. So if you're a collector, a history buff, or simply curious about how a coin with a face value of 1 cent can be worth a fortune, then you're in the right place. And I invite you to stick around as we unfold every detail about the 1980 Lincoln penny that has crossed into legendary status among numismatists. So let's start by remembering that the Lincoln cent has been a staple of American currency since 1909, with the obverse showing the iconic portrait of President Abraham Lincoln designed by Victor David Brenner. And in 1980 this classic design was still being struck at the Philadelphia Mint without a mint mark, and at the Denver Mint with a D mint mark. But what makes the 1981 cent coin so particularly interesting is the wide range of error types that are known from that year, which include double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, clipped planchets, wrong planchet strikes, die cracks, cuds, and transitional composition errors. And when one of these or a combination of these errors appears in spectacular form on a coin preserved in high mint state condition, the value can skyrocket. And that is exactly how a 1981 cent managed to fetch $1 million, because this particular coin combined multiple dramatic minting flaws with pristine condition, making it a unique survivor and one of the most desirable pennies ever offered. So let's explore each possibility, starting with double die errors, which are among the most famous and collectible varieties in U.S. coinage. A double die occurs when the die used to strike coins is improperly hubbed, and the design details appear doubled on the coins it strikes. And in 1980, one of the most significant double die obverse varieties shows strong doubling on the word liberty and the motto "I in God we trust," as well as parts of the date. And collectors who discover such a coin instantly recognize its rarity, with well-struck double die pennies bringing thousands of dollars even in circulated condition. So imagine one struck with extreme doubling in gem mint state condition with blazing red luster that could already be worth tens of thousands, but when paired with additional errors the value multiplies exponentially. Now consider another type of error, the off-center strike, which occurs when the planchet is not properly seated in the collar during striking and the design appears partially off the coin, leaving part of the planchet blank. And the more dramatic the off-center, especially when combined with a full visible date and mint mark, the more desirable it becomes. And a 1980 penny struck 50% off-center with clear doubling would already be highly valuable. Now add to that the possibility of a wrong planchet strike, meaning the coin was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination such as a dime or a foreign coin planchet, and that introduces incredible rarity because it means something went seriously wrong at the mint's production line, and we know that error planchets like copper nickel dimes, clad quarters, or even foreign planchets were sometimes mistakenly fed into the presses that struck Lincoln cents, and if the 1981 cent in question happened to be struck on a planchet of the wrong size, weight, or composition, this would only elevate its uniqueness. And speaking of composition, we cannot ignore the major transition that occurred in 1982 when the mint shifted from the traditional 95% copper planchets weighing 3.11 grams to copper-plated zinc planchets weighing 2.5 grams. But experimental testing and preparation for this transition was taking place as early as 1980 and 1981, meaning that a few transitional composition cents are believed to exist from those years. So if a 1980 cent was struck on an experimental zinc planchet years before it became the standard, that would be a holy grail find worth a fortune. Now let's consider the dramatic visual minting flaws like die cracks and cuts. A cut occurs when a portion of the die breaks away, leaving a raised blob of metal on the struck coin. These major die breaks are extremely collectible, and when they appear in large dramatic form across Lincoln's portrait or around the rim, they command serious premiums. And in 1980 such cuts are known, and when combined with doubled dies or wrong planchet errors, their rarity is amplified. And we must not forget broad strikes, which happen when a coin is struck outside the retaining collar, causing it to spread out wider and thinner than normal, often with distorted design details. These coins grab attention because of their strikingly unusual appearance, and collectors pay strong money for them. So a 1980 broad strike combined with doubling or composition errors would again reach massive prices. Now the $1,1980 penny is believed to combine several of these traits. For instance, imagine a 1980 Lincoln cent struck on a transitional zinc planchet at the wrong weight, with a doubled die obverse showing strong doubling on the motto. Struck 30% off center, leaving part of the blank planchet visible, while also showing a prominent die cut across the rim, and then surviving in pristine condition graded mint state 67 read by a top grading service like PCGS or NGC. Such a coin would be a one-of-a-kind showpiece, and when two or more wealthy collectors compete for it at a major auction, the bidding can soar into the millions. And this is exactly how a simple 1-cent coin can become a $1 million treasure. And it is fascinating to think about all the possibilities that coins like this open up for collectors, because the minting process is both mechanical and imperfect. No matter how precise the technology, mistakes still happen, and sometimes those mistakes create something far more valuable than the mint ever intended. And this unpredictability is what keeps the hobby of coin collecting so engaging, because you never know if the penny in your pocket change might turn out to be worth a life-changing sum. And for the 1980 cent collectors specifically, know to look for things like strong doubling, off-center strikes, and unusual weights that could suggest wrong planchets. And while most 1980 cents are common copper issues worth only face value, the rare few with dramatic mistakes have proven that they can command astronomical sums. And stories of people finding error coins in circulation decades after they were minted fuel the excitement even more, because it means the possibility of discovering treasure is always out there. So when we talk about the $1,1980 penny, we're really talking about the perfect storm of errors, rarity, condition, and demand all coming together in one coin. And while only one or two such examples may exist, it is enough to establish the legend and inspire collectors everywhere to keep searching, because every great coin find starts with curiosity and careful examination. So always check your pocket change, look closely with a magnifying glass, weigh suspicious coins on a digital scale, compare the rims, study the details of the lettering, and learn to recognize the signs of doubling, off-center strikes, and unusual planchets, because as this story shows, it is possible for a 1-cent coin struck in 1980 to reach the value of $1 million, a truly astonishing fact that continues to make headlines and spark dreams in the collecting community. And the next time you hold a penny, just think about how much history and how many possibilities are wrapped up in that little piece of copper, and what treasures might still be hiding in plain sight waiting to be discovered by sharp eyes and curious minds just like yours. And with that, we've explored the incredible journey of the 1980 Lincoln cent that became worth $1 million thanks to its errors and mistakes, a coin that proves once again that in numismatics anything is possible, and that even the smallest details can turn into the biggest rewards. And that's why collectors remain passionate, and why this hobby never loses its excitement. Next, 2000 Lincoln Penny. Thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into the incredible world of rare and valuable coins. And in particular, we're going to talk about one of the most fascinating stories in modern numismatics, the 2001 cent coin that has shocked collectors, investors, and treasure hunters alike because of its rarity, its fascinating array of errors, and the unbelievable fact that some examples have been valued as high as $7 million. An amount that seems almost unimaginable for something as small and ordinary as a penny, but becomes completely understandable once you truly explore the reasons why this coin is so unique and how certain mistakes during the minting process have turned a simple cent into a multi-million-dollar prize. And as we go on this journey together, we will uncover how the year 2000 marked a transitional moment in U.S. coin production, how the designs, the dies, the planchets, and the striking methods all came together in ways that could create remarkable errors, how different collectors have pursued these coins and driven their values higher and higher, and how you yourself might want to start looking carefully at every penny that comes into your hand, because you never know when one of those could be a life-changing discovery hiding in plain sight. So let's begin by understanding why the 2000 Lincoln cent holds such a special place in history, and what makes it stand out among billions of ordinary examples that left the U.S. Mint that year. And it begins with the simple fact that billions of coins were struck in Philadelphia and Denver with the familiar Lincoln obverse and the Lincoln Memorial reverse. But within those billions, rare mistakes slipped through, and while to the average spender these coins would look like just another brown or shiny copper-plated zinc cent, to the trained eye of a collector they contain secrets worth millions. And one of the most talked about varieties from the year 2000 is the wide AM reverse error, where the spacing between the A and the M in the word America is noticeably wider than on standard business strikes. This variety normally belongs to proof coins, but a small number of circulation strikes were accidentally struck with proof dies, and collectors quickly realized that these wide AM varieties were dramatically scarcer than normal, and over the years their value has risen. But what really sets the stage for $7 million coins are not just minor design differences like that, but combinations of extreme minting mistakes such as double strikes, off-center strikes, die clashes, wrong planchet strikes where a cent was accidentally struck on a foreign coin planchet or on a dime planchet, and transitional errors where the wrong composition might have been used. And when you put together the fact that some coins combine more than one of these errors, you begin to see why a single coin could be so jaw-droppingly valuable, because collectors are not only looking for rarity, but for dramatic stories told by the metal itself. And the year 2000 is loaded with potential for these stories. Now let's imagine how a 2000 cent could have been misstruck on a planchet intended for a foreign coin, like a brass planchet for a coin of another country minted in the same facility. These off-metal errors are among the most prized in numismatics, and depending on the metal content, weight, and appearance, a coin like that can fetch hundreds of thousands or even millions. And if it also includes other features like doubling on the obverse or reverse lettering, then the desirability skyrockets, because you're no longer dealing with a simple one-off error, but with a once-in-history anomaly, something no mint employee intended, something that slipped past quality control, and something that now commands headlines when it reaches the auction block. And to understand why collectors are willing to pay $7 million, we also need to appreciate the psychology of the rare coin market, where the combination of scarcity, demand, historical importance, and dramatic appearance all create a perfect storm. a wealthy collector who wants to own the very best example of a US cent error from the modern era is willing to spend an astronomical figure because they know only one or two such coins exist. And that ownership gives them not only bragging rights, but also the assurance that the coin's value will likely continue to grow over time. And as we dig deeper into the details of the 2000 Lincoln cent, we must talk about double die obverse and reverses were parts of the design, like the date, the letters "I in God we trust," Liberty, or the Lincoln Memorial itself appear doubled because of misalignment during the hubbing process of the die. And in some cases these doubled dies are so dramatic that even someone with no knowledge of coins can spot them instantly. And when such an error combines with other features, like a wrong planchet strike, or a major die crack running across the coin, the uniqueness becomes undeniable, and history shows us that dramatic double dies, like the famous 1955 cent or the 1969 cent with a bold double die obverse, have fetched incredible prices. So when a year 2000 double die appears, especially if combined with a wide AM reverse, the value leaps exponentially. And now imagine if such a coin also happens to be in pristine condition, graded by a top certification company as MS68 or MS69, then you are talking about the pinnacle of rarity and quality, something that can stand alone in the marketplace and justify a $7 million price tag. And when collectors and investors read about these coins in auction catalogs, numismatic journals, and mainstream news reports, the excitement builds and creates bidding wars that push prices beyond what anyone expected. And it's this competitive energy that has helped set records time and again, with coins like $1,794, 1933 double eagles, and other rarities reaching into tens of millions. And though pennies seem like small change, their emotional impact is huge because nearly everyone has handled them, and the idea of finding one worth a fortune in your pocket change is irresistible, fueling the dream of treasure hunting among everyday people. And when we focus again on the year 2000 cent, we should consider the role of planchet errors such as unplated cents that escaped before receiving their copper coating, resulting in bright zinc colored coins that stand out immediately and catch collectors' attention, or broad-stroke errors where the collar that normally holds the coin in shape during striking malfunctions, leading to coins with expanded, warped appearances that again make them stand out. And there are also off-center strikes where part of Lincoln's face might be missing entirely because the blank was not aligned properly with the dies, sometimes creating dramatic half-missing designs that collectors love. And while such off-center errors are relatively more common, the rarest and most valuable are those that retain the full date, making them easy to identify and even more desirable. And now, if you add in the fact that in the year 2000 the mint was still perfecting high-speed mass production, leading to greater chances for clashes and cuts where broken dies leave large raised areas of metal on the finished coins, you begin to understand that the year was ripe for fascinating blunders. And each of these errors can bring hundreds or thousands, but in unique combinations they create legendary coins. And this is exactly what has fueled the mythos of the $7 million 2000 cent. And as we continue exploring, we must also think about proof coins struck at the San Francisco Mint in 2000, which were made with polished dies and special planchets for collectors. And when any of those proof dies accidentally made their way into circulation production, unusual varieties, like the wide AM, were created, bridging the gap between collector and circulation strikes and causing specialists to hunt them relentlessly. And the market for these coins has only grown as the story spreads through media, television features, online forums, and YouTube videos like this one, where collectors and everyday people alike are captivated by the idea that a simple penny could change their life. And as more collectors enter the market from around the world, the demand for US era coins grows, especially those with dramatic stories. And when a 2000 cent surfaces with the right combination of errors, top condition, and undeniable rarity, the stage is set for a record-breaking auction, and the legend of a $7 million penny is born. And while many will ask why anyone would pay so much, the answer lies in history, art, rarity, and human desire to own the unique. Next, 1992 Lincoln Penny. Today, as we dive deep into another fascinating story from the world of rare coins, a world where small details can make all the difference, where what seems like an ordinary penny in your pocket could actually turn out to be worth millions of dollars. And today we're going to explore one of the most talked about rarities of the modern era, the 1992 D1 coin that has been valued as high as $5 million because of its incredible errors, mistakes, and anomalies that elevate it far above a simple copper-plated zinc cent. A story that excites both coin collectors and casual enthusiasts because it proves that even in the modern age, the U.S. Mint can still produce mistakes that transform ordinary coins into treasures of unimaginable worth. So let's buckle up and dive into the reasons why this single 1992 D penny has shocked the numismatic world, why collectors are willing to pay astronomical sums for it, and what you should look out for in your own collection, because who knows, you might just have one of these million-dollar gems hiding in a jar, an old roll of cents, or tucked away in a box that's been forgotten for years. And when we begin to talk about the 1992 D penny, we immediately have to discuss the most famous and striking error associated with this date, which is the close AM reverse variety. An error where the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America on the reverse side of the coin is unusually close together compared to the standard design of that year. And while this may sound like a tiny, almost insignificant detail, it actually represents a colossal mistake by the mint, because it meant that dies intended for proof coins or later design modifications were mistakenly used on regular circulation strikes produced at the Denver Mint, resulting in a small handful of coins slipping through the cracks and entering circulation. Coins that look almost identical to their normal counterparts, but with that one subtle difference that transforms their value from a single cent to millions of dollars at auction. And the rarity of this variety cannot be overstated, because only a tiny number of confirmed examples are known, making them far scarcer than even many of the classic rarities of early U.S. coinage. And when a coin is both modern enough that people can relate to it, and yet so rare that only a few collectors will ever own one, the demand skyrockets, which is exactly what happened with the 1992 D close AM penny. And it's not just the rarity that makes it exciting, it's the story of how these mistakes happen, the human errors, the oversights in die preparation, the immense production scale of the mint where billions of coins are struck every year. And yet, in that vast river of copper-plated zinc, a tiny handful come out with a quirk so special that they rewrite the record books. And if we start to peel back the layers of this coin's value, we see that the fascination begins with the die itself. Because in 1992, the mint was transitioning designs and preparing for subtle changes that would come in later years. And somehow proved dies featuring the close AM design ended up in the regular Denver Mint circulation press, striking coins that no one at the time realized were special. And this is what makes discoveries decades later so thrilling, because collectors examining coins under magnification find a spacing anomaly that matches proof coins and not the circulation coins of the year, confirming that something unusual took place at the mint. And once word spread in the numismatic community, the hunt was on, and every collector wanted to check their 1992 and 1992 D cents to see if they had one of these rare treasures. And though very few surfaced, enough appeared to confirm that the error was real and not just an isolated one-off. And as more and more attention was drawn to these coins, their values escalated dramatically, starting in the thousands, moving into the tens of thousands, then crossing into six figures, and eventually reaching valuations in the millions as collectors realized how few of them existed. And the Denver Mint variety in particular is considered the most valuable, as examples have been known to fetch extraordinary sums at auction. And when we talk about why someone would pay $5 million for a 1992 D penny, the answer lies not only in its rarity, but also in the psychology of collecting, the desire to own something so rare that only a handful of people in the world can say they possess it, and in numismatics, rarity combined with a compelling backstory is the perfect formula for astronomical prices. And the story of the 1992 DeClose AM penny checks all those boxes, being a modern coin, an accidental error, extremely rare, and highly publicized among collectors. But what also adds to its allure are the additional mistakes and varieties that sometimes accompany these coins. Because whenever dies are misused or repurposed, other small anomalies often show up, such as die cracks, doubling, weak strikes, plating blisters, and other features that can further distinguish individual specimens, and these unique markers make each coin not just a type rarity but also a one-of-a-kind artifact with its own personality and fingerprint, and collectors love that because it adds layers of uniqueness on top of rarity. And if we dig into the technical aspects a bit more, the normal 1992 cent has a wide AM reverse design, meaning the letters A and M in America have a distinct space between them, but on the proof dies used accidentally in Denver, the AM is nearly touching, creating what we now call the close AM variety, and to the naked eye it may seem trivial, but under magnification it jumps out clearly, and this single design difference has become one of the most legendary varieties in modern coinage. But alongside the spacing issue we sometimes find things like misaligned dies, off-center strikes, or clash marks that occur when dies strike each other without a planchet between them. And if one of these extra anomalies appears on a 1992 DeClose AM penny, its value soars even further because now it's not just a legendary rarity, but a double or even triple error coin. And auction houses love these combinations because they ignite bidding wars among collectors who refuse to lose out on such a prize. And this is why prices can reach levels that seem unimaginable for what started life as a simple 1-cent coin. And when we think about the possibility of finding one today, it's actually still possible, though extremely unlikely, because the vast majority of these coins were spent and circulated, meaning they could be hiding in coin jars, bank rolls, or pocket change, and countless collectors continue to search through their 1990 cents in hopes of uncovering one, and the excitement of that possibility adds to the legend. Because treasure hunts like this are part of what makes coin collecting so enjoyable, and beyond just the close AM feature, the 1992 D penny is also scrutinized for doubled dies, especially on the obverse where lettering like Liberty or I in God We Trust might show doubling under magnification, and though not as famous as the 1955 or 1969's doubled die cents, if such doubling were to occur on a 1992 DeClose AM, its value would skyrocket even further, possibly making it even more than $5 million depending on condition. And condition of course plays a major role because coins that survive in mint state, with sharp details, nowhere, and strong luster are exponentially rarer and more valuable than circulated examples, and given that the close AM variety wasn't known until years after it was struck, most examples that have been found are in circulated grades, making the few mid-state pieces absolute treasures, the pinnacle of rarity and desirability. And this explains why collectors and investors alike are willing to pay such astronomical prices. And another factor that contributes to the story is the copper-plated zinc composition itself, because by 1992 the mint was well into its use of zinc planchets with thin copper plating, and these coins are notorious for developing spots, blisters, and other defects. So finding a well-preserved example of a rare variety is even more difficult, and this scarcity of high-quality survivors pushes values ever higher. And while we often think of older coins when we think of million-dollar rarities, the 1992 DeClose AM penny proves that even recent issues can join that elite club, and it also serves as a reminder of how important it is to pay attention to small details, because something as minor as the spacing of two letters can make a difference of millions of dollars, and that's why collectors obsess over varieties, study minting processes, and share discoveries with each other, because the thrill of the hunt never ends. And stories like the 1992 D penny are what keep the hobby alive and exciting. Next, 2002 D Lincoln penny. Today, as we dive into the fascinating world of rare coins and hidden treasures, a journey that takes us into the realm where something as ordinary as a penny can turn into a multi-million-dollar prize, and in this case, we are going to explore the incredible story of the 2002 D 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors and experts alike by being valued at an astonishing $6 million. A figure so large that most people can hardly believe a copper-plated zinc coin originally struck for just a cent could ever be worth such a fortune. Yet, when we peel back the layers of history, minting anomalies, errors, and collector demand, we begin to see why such a coin becomes a legendary piece of numismatic lore, and why it is considered a true jewel for those who understand the intricacies of coin production, rarity, and human fascination with mistakes turned masterpieces. So let's begin by considering the basic context of the 2002 D penny, minted at the Denver Mint, a facility known for high-volume production where billions of Lincoln cents were struck, which means that quality control becomes an enormous challenge when machines are running at full speed, dies are constantly being replaced, and any slight mishap in alignment, pressure, or preparation can lead to a mistake that escapes into circulation, unnoticed at first but eventually recognized by a sharp-eyed collector who realizes its true significance. And in the case of the $6 million 2002 D penny, the errors and possibilities that make it so valuable form a perfect storm of numismatic rarity, starting with the fact that 2002 was a period when the U.S. Mint had long since transitioned from solid bronze or copper composition to copper-plated zinc, a material that itself is prone to certain striking issues, such as plating blisters, peeling, or incomplete adhesion of the copper layer, which can lead to dramatic visual differences. But when combined with other striking errors, such as double dies, off centers, broad strikes, die caps, or wrong planchet strikes, the coin can cross into the realm of once-in-a-lifetime rarities, and experts believe the $6 million specimen shows multiple layers of errors, including a dramatic off-center strike combined with doubling on key details of Lincoln's profile and the lettering "In God We Trust, Liberty," and the date itself, creating a surreal appearance where the portrait seemed shadowed by another impression. And to add to this anomaly, it is believed that the coin may have been struck on a transitional planchet, possibly intended for another denomination, which creates the kind of rarity that collectors drool over, because a transitional error suggests that a leftover blank from a previous year or different denomination somehow slipped through and was struck with Lincoln cent dies. And since the Denver Mint was a hub of mass production, the chance of such a piece escaping was remote but not impossible, and when one such piece does emerge, it becomes a shining example of the unpredictability of minting. So now imagine the excitement of the first person who stumbled upon this extraordinary 2002 D penny, perhaps in a roll of cents from the bank, perhaps in loose change received at a grocery store, never suspecting that in their hand lay a tiny disc of metal valued at millions. And as the coin was inspected and authenticated by experts, the magnitude of its errors became clear, sparking a frenzy in the collector community as word spread that a genuine multi-error transitional 2002 D cent existed. And because such coins are unique, value skyrockets not only from the rarity of the error, but also from the story that surrounds it, since collectors are not just buying metal, but the tale of an extraordinary accident in history that can never be recreated. And when two or more collectors with deep pockets compete to own such a piece, auctions can climb into astronomical figures, explaining how this tiny 1-cent coin ultimately fetched $6 million at a high-profile auction. So let's break down the possible errors again in detail to appreciate why it commands such value, starting with doubling errors, which occur when the die shifts slightly between strikes or during hubbing, leaving behind a shadow-like impression. And in this coin, the doubling is so dramatic on the obverse lettering and Lincoln's portrait that it is visible without magnification, something collectors call major doubling. And then add to this the misalignment of strike that caused the design to be off-center, revealing part of the blank planchet along the rim while cutting off parts of the design on the opposite side, creating visual drama that ordinary off-centers simply don't deliver. Then consider the possibility of a wrong planchet, perhaps struck on a planchet intended for a dime or foreign coin of similar size, which immediately boosts rarity since planchet errors are among the most desirable types. And, to top it off, plating issues typical of copper-plated zinc scents may be present, such as peeling or bubbling that give it a unique surface texture, meaning the single coin embodies multiple categories of error, a perfect storm that catapults it into legendary status, and the rarity is magnified by the fact that 2002D cents were mass-produced with billions surviving in circulation. Yet none like this. So almost 2002D pennies will never be worth more than face value. This single example shines like a beacon, reminding collectors that treasures may still lurk in pocket change. Now consider the psychology of collectors and investors who drive up the price. Because owning a coin like this is not merely about holding metal but about owning history, prestige, and uniqueness, and wealthy buyers often view such pieces as tangible assets, diversification of wealth, and conversation pieces that set them apart. So when this penny hit the auction block, its value was not capped by its metallic content or even its error type, but rather by the competitive spirit of collectors who simply could not bear to let such a once-in-a-lifetime coin slip away, driving the final hammer price to $6 million, a figure that cements its status among the most valuable error coins ever discovered. And beyond the auction house, the story inspires ordinary people to look closer at their change, to appreciate the craftsmanship and chance mistakes that make numismatics a blend of art, science, and luck, because every penny, dime, nickel, or quarter you touch carries with it the possibility of harboring an anomaly that could change your life, and the 2002D cent is living proof of that possibility. But let's push further into the technical side of what could have gone wrong at the Denver Mint to produce such an error, because errors are windows into the minting process, which begins with planchet preparation where blank discs are cut from metal sheets, then washed, polished, and sent to presses. And if at this stage a wrong planchet of a different metal or size sneaks in, the resulting coin will bear the design of the intended denomination, but on the wrong metal, instantly making it rare. And then the striking process involves two dies, obverse and reverse, that press the design under tons of pressure. And if alignment is off or pressure uneven, the result can be off-center strikes, broad strikes without rims, or die caps where a coin sticks to the die and strikes, subsequent blanks with distorted impressions, and sometimes dies themselves develop cracks, cuds, or doubling during hubbing, creating distinct anomalies that collectors treasure. And in this specific 2002D specimen, evidence points to a convergence of these mishaps, including dramatic doubling from hubbing, misalignment during strike, and a possible transitional planchet error, all of which combine into a coin that defies odds, because the chance of one error slipping through is rare, but multiple errors on one coin, preserved in high grade, borders on miraculous, hence its legendary valuation. And when we add in the condition of the coin, which experts say is near mint state with full luster and detail despite its errors, the value multiplies further, since collectors prize not only rarity but also preservation, and this one being nearly pristine makes it even more desirable. And so we can understand why this coin transcended ordinary error coin prices and achieved a record-breaking $6 million. Now, if we step back and consider history, other famous pennies have reached similar fame, such as the 1943 copper cent, the 1955 double die, or the 1992 close AM. But the 2002D error penny stands apart because of its modernity and complexity of errors, proving that even in recent times, treasures still emerge. Next, 1995 Lincoln penny. Thank you for joining us today as we dive into the fascinating world of rare and valuable coins where small details, tiny imperfections, and seemingly ordinary pocket change can transform into treasures worth life-changing amounts of money. And in this discussion, we are going to explore one particular example that has captured the imagination of collectors and investors alike. The 1995 1-cent coin that, due to its errors, mistakes, and rare variations, has been valued as high as $5 million. A staggering figure for something most people would pass over without a second thought. But once you begin to understand the story, the minting process, the potential mistakes, and the ways in which such coins are graded and authenticated, it becomes clear why this unassuming cent has earned legendary status in numismatic circles. So let's begin by understanding the background of the 1995 cent. Minted primarily at the Philadelphia Mint and the Denver Mint, continuing the long tradition of the Lincoln Memorial design that had been used since 1959, and while hundreds of millions were produced, making the coin common in circulation, it is precisely within such massive production runs that errors can slip through, and when they do, they sometimes create varieties so striking that collectors clamor for them, driving prices to astonishing levels. And among the most famous of these errors is the 1995 double die obverse, a coin that immediately captured national attention because the doubling on the obverse side, especially on the inscriptions such as Liberty and In God We Trust, was strong enough to be visible without magnification, which is very rare in double die varieties and helped fuel collector enthusiasm. And although many examples of this variety exist, most sell in the hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on condition, but in extraordinary cases, particularly when combined with unusual minting anomalies, premium grades, or provenance, prices can skyrocket into the millions. And that is where the story of the $5 million valuation comes into play, because the marketplace for rare coins is not just about rarity alone, but about a combination of rarity, demand, condition, story, and uniqueness, and the 1995 cent embodies all of these when it comes to certain specimens. For instance, imagine a coin struck with an exceptionally bold double die obverse, paired with a high grade such as Mint State 69 red certified by a leading grading service, and then add in perhaps a dramatic off-center strike or even a clash mark error that occurred simultaneously. The result would be a coin that is essentially one of a kind, and collectors and investors who thrive on uniqueness would see it as a trophy piece worth millions, especially in today's market where rare error coins are gaining mainstream attention. But before we dig deeper into the specific types of errors that could push a 1995 cent to $5 million, it is important to understand how errors occur, because each misstep in the minting process carries with it the potential for something unusual, from planchet preparation errors to die creation errors to striking anomalies. And the double die variety itself is not technically a striking error, but a hubbing error, occurring when the die receives multiple impressions that are misaligned, creating the doubled appearance. And this is why the 1995 double die is so dramatic. But other mistakes also happen, such as off-center strikes where the planchet is not seated correctly, broad strikes where the coin is struck without a collar, clipped planchets where the blank metal strip was improperly cut, wrong planchet errors where a cent design is struck on a dime or foreign coin planchet, and die breaks or cuds where part of the die collapses leaving a raised blob of metal on the coin. And each of these can add to the value of a 1995 cent, especially if combined with the already famous double die obverse. So, let's imagine a hypothetical coin that embodies multiple spectacular anomalies, such as a 1995 double die obverse struck off-center by 20% with a dramatic retained cut on the reverse, and then picture it graded at the highest levels, blazing red with immaculate surfaces. Such a coin could easily draw headlines at auction and inspire competitive bidding among elite collectors who are always looking for a centerpiece for their collection, and that competition is what drives prices into the millions. Because rarity alone does not set the price, It is the desire of wealthy collectors to outbid one another for something they may never see again that propels the number upward. And that is why the $5 million valuation is not just fantasy but a reflection of the dynamics of the numismatic marketplace. And while some may dismiss such figures as exaggerated, history shows otherwise. As coins like the 1933 St. Gaudens Double Eagle, the 1794 Flowing Hair Silver Dollar, and the 1913 Liberty Nickel have sold for millions, and each of those coins owes its value to a combination of rarity, uniqueness, and historical significance. So when you consider the 1995 one cent with its double die error, the fact that it is modern and still accessible in some circulation finds adds to its mystique. Because the dream of pulling $1 million coin from change is incredibly appealing, and this accessibility keeps demand high, especially for pristine specimens, so much so that collectors carefully examine 1995 cents under magnification hoping to spot the telltale doubling, and when they do, even if it is not a record breaker, the thrill of discovery fuels the legend of this coin, and beyond the famous double die, other rarer errors have been documented, such as multiple strike errors where the coin is struck more than once, transitional errors where a coin is accidentally struck on a leftover planchet from a previous year's composition, and wrong metal errors, where the cent design is struck on a planchet intended for a foreign denomination, each of which can multiply the value depending on severity and uniqueness. And when you combine all these possibilities with the already heightened awareness of the 1995 cent, you have the perfect storm for $1 million valuations, because coin collectors are not only numismatists but also storytellers. And the story of a $5 million 1995 cent is irresistible. It speaks of a tiny piece of copper-plated zinc that against all odds became a treasure. It speaks of the fallibility of machines and the human eye to catch every mistake, and it speaks of the relentless passion of collectors who scour through coins searching for that one in a billion find. And the psychology of collecting is crucial to understanding why someone would pay so much, because collectors are driven by completion, prestige, investment, and the thrill of ownership. And when you have a coin that offers all four, the price tag almost becomes secondary. It becomes about securing a place in numismatic history, about being the one who owns the coin that others can only dream about, and that sense of exclusivity and pride can justify millions. And this is not without precedent, because auction houses have documented bidding wars over coins that most outsiders would struggle to differentiate from ordinary pocket change. But within the numismatic world, details are everything, and the tiniest doubling, misalignment, or off metal strike can change the value by orders of magnitude. So when we talk about a $5 million 1995 cent, we are talking about a coin that is more than metal. It is a symbol of rarity, error, perfection in imperfection, and the boundless human drive to collect and preserve history. And as the years go by, the fame of the 1995 double die continues to grow, making it not just a valuable error coin, but a cultural icon within the coin collecting community. And as fewer pristine examples remain in circulation, and more are absorbed into collections and certified slabs, the scarcity intensifies, setting the stage for record-breaking sales in the future. And that is why it is always worth taking the time to check your change, to look closely at those 1995 cents, because while most will be ordinary, there is always the chance, however small, that you are holding a fortune in your hand. And that possibility alone is what makes coin collecting so captivating. So as we wrap this exploration of the $5 million 1995 cent, remember that value comes from rarity, condition, demand, and the compelling stories that coins carry. And in this case, the story of the 1995 cent with its dramatic errors, unique anomalies, and legendary status in the marketplace shows us how something so small can embody immense worth. Next, 1986 Lincoln Penny. Thank you for joining us today as we dive deep into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and numismatics, a story that captures the imagination of collectors, investors, and enthusiasts all around the globe, because we are going to explore the remarkable tale of the 1986 1-cent coin. A humble penny that under extraordinary circumstances can be worth as much as $5 million. And the reason behind such astronomical value lies in the errors, mistakes, and unique anomalies that occurred during the minting process, making this coin not only rare, but also a treasure of historical and collectible significance. So let us begin this incredible journey into the details of what makes the 1986 penny so special, why certain errors increase its value so dramatically, how such mistakes could have happened in the mint, and what possibilities lie behind its appeal to collectors who are willing to pay millions for a coin that originally was struck for just a cent. And to truly appreciate this phenomenon, we first have to consider the background of the U.S. Mint during the mid-1980s, a time when the country was shifting coin compositions, when quality control methods were improving but not immune to human or mechanical oversight, and when millions of coins were struck each year, among which a few managed to escape the usual standards and entered circulation or collectors' hands with striking errors that changed their destiny forever. And the 1986 penny is a perfect example of this dynamic, because though it was mass-produced like every other cent, some of its versions exhibit rare errors such as double die strikes where the design elements appear duplicated because the die impressed the coin more than once in misaligned fashion, creating doubling in areas like the date, Liberty inscription, or In God We Trust motto, and these doubling features, especially when bold and visible to the naked eye, make collectors eager to bid astronomical amounts. Since such coins are literally one-of-a-kind pieces, another error possibility lies in off-center strikes where the coin is not properly aligned with the die and ends up being struck with the design shifted to one side, sometimes showing a crescent of blank planchet on the edge, and in rare cases, when the off-center strike still includes the full date, collectors will pay huge premiums, because the combination of identifiable date and dramatic misalignment is both visually striking and numismatically rare. And when we add to this the possibility of broad strikes where the collar failed to contain the coin during striking, leaving it wider and flatter than normal, or clipped planchets where part of the blank metal disc was missing before striking, giving the coin an unusual crescent-shaped clip, the variety of possible minting mistakes on the 1986 penny becomes a treasure trove for error collectors. But beyond mechanical striking errors, there are transitional or composition anomalies which can send values skyrocketing. For example, if a 1986 penny was mistakenly struck on a copper planchet left over from pre-1982 stock instead of the standard zinc-coated composition, that coin would be instantly more valuable because it defies the norm of its year. And collectors love such transitional pieces that reveal how the mint sometimes allowed leftovers or accidents to pass through undetected. And imagine the excitement when such an error is certified by professional grading services confirming its authenticity, because that is when the true bidding wars begin at auctions, and it is in these heated environments that the price of a rare 1986 penny can climb from thousands to hundreds of thousands and ultimately into the millions when a coin combines rarity, error, and desirability. And this is where the $5 million figure comes into play, because one single coin with multiple dramatic errors, such as a double die combined with a broad strike on a leftover copper planchet, can become a holy grail for collectors who see it as not just a coin, but as a piece of history frozen in metal, a testament to the imperfections of human and machine. And as word spreads about such a specimen, its fame magnifies its value, because rarity is not only about numbers, but also about notoriety. And once a coin gains a reputation as being among the rarest and most unique in existence, its price can soar to unimaginable levels. So in the case of the 1986 one, set worth $5 million, we are talking about a coin that embodies extreme error, extreme rarity, and extreme demand. And to further understand why collectors are willing to pay so much, we should consider the psychology of rarity, because humans have always been drawn to objects that are unique, scarce, and historically significant. And coins fit perfectly into this realm since they are both everyday objects and historical artifacts, bridging the ordinary and extraordinary, and when one particular year or variety stands out due to errors, it becomes an irresistible target for those who wish to own something no one else has. And this is especially true when it comes to pennies, because they are the lowest denomination, the coin people often overlook, making it even more poetic when one of them turns out to be worth millions. Almost as if the smallest denomination defies its fate and climbs to the very top of the value ladder, and beyond the obvious errors such as double dies and off-center strikes, there are also more subtle mistakes that can add great value, like repunched mint marks where the D or S mint mark was stamped more than once, leaving traces of doubling, or die cracks and cuts where the die itself broke or deteriorated, causing raised lines or missing parts of the design on the coin. And while some of these may seem minor, in the world of collecting they are signs of authenticity, charm, and rarity, and when preserved in mint state condition with minimal wear, they command even higher prices, especially if they are one of only a handful known to exist. And speaking of condition, that is another major factor in why a 1986 penny can reach millions, because a coin with a rare error in poor condition may be interesting but will not break auction records. However, when such a coin is found in pristine, uncirculated state with full red luster, it becomes not just rare but nearly miraculous, since most pennies were used in daily transactions and worn down quickly, meaning that finding a high-grade error coin is like finding a needle in a haystack, and that scarcity multiplies its value exponentially. And when you combine the perfect storm of extreme rarity, dramatic minting errors, historical intrigue, and pristine preservation, you end up with a coin that collectors fight over, driving the price into the millions. And this is exactly why the story of the 1986 penny is so captivating, because it represents the unexpected, the possibility that something as small and common as a penny can turn into a multi-million-dollar treasure, reminding us that hidden gems still exist in plain sight, waiting to be discovered in old jars, pocket change, or inherited collections. And as more stories surface about record-breaking auctions where one-set pieces sell for millions, interest in coins like the 1986 penny only grows, fueling the hunt among collectors and treasure seekers everywhere, because everyone dreams of finding that one coin that changes everything. And so when we look at the 1986 penny worth $5 million, we are not just looking at a piece of copper-plated zinc, we are looking at a symbol of rarity, luck, history, and human fascination with imperfection, a coin that against all odds became a legend, and the possibilities of errors are vast, from long planchet strikes where a penny is struck on a dime or foreign coin blank, to multiple strikes where the coin is hit 2 or 3 times leaving overlapping designs, to rotated dies where the reverse and obverse do not line up correctly. Each of these anomalies contributes to the story of the 1986 penny, and each adds layers of rarity and desirability. And when we think about how many millions of pennies were minted that year, the odds of such dramatic errors slipping through and surviving in top condition are astronomical, which is precisely why their value is astronomical too. And so the fascination continues as collectors speculate on what other hidden 1986 errors might still be out there, waiting to be found, and the dream of turning a single cent into millions keeps the hunt alive. And in that dream lies the magic of numismatics, the thrill of discovery, the joy of history, and the allure of treasure. And with every 1986 penny examined, with every detail studied under magnification, there is the chance, however slim. Next, 1975 1-cent USA coin. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating stories in the world of rare coins and numismatics, a story that shows how a seemingly ordinary piece of change you might pass around in everyday transactions could actually be worth an unimaginable fortune. Because today we are going to explore the incredible and almost unbelievable tale of the 1975 1-cent coin that has been valued at a staggering $3 million, not because of what it was meant to be when it left the U.S. Mint, but because of what it wasn't, because of the mistakes, mishaps, and strange anomalies that transformed this little copper-colored coin into a numismatic legend, a coin that proves that sometimes errors and flaws make something more perfect in the eyes of collectors than flawless perfection ever could. And as we begin to understand why this particular 1975 1-cent coin has become so famous and so highly sought after, we need to look at the context of its production, the processes at the mint, the way coins were struck, and how mistakes crept in, the historical setting of the mid-1970s, and then examine the different possible errors and variations that could appear on a cent from that time, because only then can we piece together the puzzle of why one of these coins has sold for millions, and why countless collectors still dream of finding another one in their pocket change or hidden in a forgotten jar of coins in an attic. And the story begins with the United States Mint in 1975, a time when the Lincoln Memorial Cent, designed by Victor David Brenner, was still being produced in enormous quantities, hundreds of millions each year, struck mostly on planchets composed primarily of copper, with small variations depending on availability of metals, and in such huge numbers there is always room for mistakes, sometimes tiny and barely noticeable, sometimes dramatic and eye-catching, and it is these mistakes, known in the coin world as mint errors, that often create coins worth many times or even millions of times their face value. So when we talk about a 1975 1-cent coin that sold for $3 million, we are not talking about just any ordinary penny. We are talking about one that escaped the mint with characteristics so unique, so impossible to replicate intentionally, and so fascinating to collectors that it became a holy grail of numismatics. And these characteristics could include double dies, off-center strikes, broad strikes, wrong planchet strikes, transitional errors, clipped planchets, die caps, struck-through errors, missing design elements, or even combinations of multiple errors, because collectors value uniqueness above all else, and when something is truly one of a kind, its value skyrockets. So let's imagine for a moment that you are holding a 1975 penny and instead of the clean and expected Lincoln design on the obverse, you notice doubling on the inscriptions. Maybe the word Liberty appears doubled, or the date 1975 shows clear separation in its digits. That is what we call a double die error, created when the hub that impresses the design into the die shifts slightly during production, and some of these double dies are so dramatic that they become legendary, like the famous 1955 double die cent, which fetches thousands of dollars even in circulated condition. So imagine if a bold and dramatic double die appeared on a 1975 cent, one that was clear and sharp enough to excite collectors. The rarity of such a coin could explain part of its incredible value. But maybe this $3 million coin was more than just a double die. Maybe it was also struck on the wrong planchet. For example, instead of being struck on the normal copper set planchet, maybe it was struck on a dime planchet, or even more rare, on a planchet intended for a foreign coin. Because the U.S. Mint in the 1970s was sometimes striking coins for other countries, and once in a while a blank intended for a coin of another nation ended up under the dies for a U.S. cent, producing a rare hybrid error coin that collectors find irresistible. And when you combine a wrong planchet with a dramatic double die, you suddenly have a coin that is literally unique, and uniqueness drives the value up into the millions. But maybe the story doesn't stop there. Maybe the coin also exhibits a striking misalignment. Maybe the strike was 50% off center, with half the design missing and the other half stretched across the blank. Or maybe it was a broad strike, where the collar that holds the planchet in place failed and the coin expanded outward in a dramatic and unusual shape. Or perhaps it was a double strike, where the coin was struck once, then failed to eject properly, and was struck again, leaving two overlapping impressions of Lincoln's bust and the memorial reverse, each one offset, creating a surreal piece that looks like a minting experiment gone wrong. Yet to collectors it looks like a masterpiece of error history, and when such mistakes occur together, the coin becomes not just rare, but one of a kind, And in the world of coin collecting, one of a kind means priceless, and that is why this 1975 1-cent coin can be worth $3 million, because when it was discovered, experts and collectors recognized that they had never seen anything like it before. And when two or more wealthy collectors both decide that they must have it, the auction price climbs higher and higher until it reaches numbers most people would never associate with a penny. And what makes this story so captivating is that any one of us could stumble across such a coin, tucked away in old change, waiting to be noticed, because errors are not always obvious at first glance. Sometimes they require a magnifying glass or a trained eye. Sometimes they hide in plain sight until one day someone realizes what they are holding. And suddenly an ordinary-looking penny becomes a life-changing discovery. And that is why people are so fascinated by coins like the 1975 penny worth $3 million, because it feeds the dream that treasure is still out there, waiting to be found. And as we keep exploring, we need to think about all the possibilities of errors that could make this coin so valuable, such as transitional errors. For example, in 1975 the cent was still being struck on copper planchets. But just a few years later, in 1982, the composition changed to copper-plated zinc. So if by some strange chance a transitional planchet existed early or late, such as a 1975 cent struck on a planchet intended for a different composition, that would create a fascinating anomaly. Or consider a coin struck through grease, where part of the die is clogged with debris and the design comes out weak or missing. And if this happened in a dramatic way, erasing key features like Lincoln's eye or parts of the memorial, the error becomes highly collectible. Or think of die breaks and cuts, where parts of the die actually crack and leave raised blobs of metal on the coin, sometimes forming strange shapes that collectors give nicknames to, like the bumpy head or dildo. And on a 1975 cent this could add significant interest, especially if combined with other errors. And then there are rotated dies, where the obverse and reverse are not properly aligned, leading to a coin where Lincoln's head is upright, but the memorial on the reverse is tilted at an odd angle, and in extreme cases this kind of rotation error can push the coin into high-value territory, and the list goes on. Because the minting process is complex and every stage presents an opportunity for something to go wrong. And in 1975 one of those wrongs went so wrong that it became spectacularly right in the eyes of collectors. And today that coin stands as a shining example of how mistakes can create beauty and value. And as we think about the incredible $3 million price tag, we realize that part of the reason is not just the error itself, but the story, the rarity, the excitement of the chase, the idea that this little coin, this everyday object, was transformed by chance into a treasure, and that transformation captures the imagination and keeps collectors searching. And so whenever you hold a 1975 penny, don't just see it as a 1-cent piece, see it as a potential mystery, a possible hidden gem, because who knows? Maybe in your hand is the next great discovery. Another coin that could rewrite numismatic history, and that is the magic of coins, where history, art, chance, and rarity all collide, producing stories like the 1975 1-cent coin worth $3 million, stories that remind us that value is not always about what something was made to be, but what it became by accident, and that in the world of collecting, mistakes are sometimes the most valuable treasures of all. Last 2012 D. Lincoln Penny. Today, as we dive into one of the most fascinating and mind-blowing stories in the world of coin collecting, a story that combines history, rarity, and numismatic wonder into one incredible tale, because today, we are going to explore how a seemingly ordinary 2012 D 1-cent coin, a penny that most people would glance at and overlook as just another piece of pocket change, has been valued at a jaw-dropping $9 million thanks to a combination of rare minting errors, production mistakes, and extraordinary possibilities that have made it one of the most desirable pieces of modern American coinage. And as we go deeper, you will understand why collectors, dealers, and auction houses alike consider these coins to be true treasures hiding in plain sight. So let's begin by setting the stage with what makes the 2012 D penny special. Because on the surface it seems like just another Lincoln set minted in Denver, bearing the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse and the shield design on the reverse, which had been adopted in 2010 to symbolize the preservation of the Union. But beneath this ordinary appearance lie a variety of fascinating details and minting anomalies that have created value far beyond what anyone would normally expect from a modern circulation coin. And this is where the story takes off. Because the 2012 D penny is notorious among error collectors for the number of mistakes that can be found on it, ranging from double dies to off-center strikes to improperly plated surfaces to even dramatic instances of missing letters or misaligned dies. And when you combine these possibilities with the sheer number of coins struck at the Denver Mint in 2012, billions upon billions, it becomes clear how difficult it is to find the rare few that contain these special attributes, making the hunt exciting and the discoveries breathtaking when one of these errors is finally located. And imagine holding in your hand a coin that looks common at first glance, but upon closer inspection reveals that the date is doubled, or the mint mark appears misplaced, or Lincoln's portrait shows an extra outline due to hub doubling, or perhaps the shield on the reverse shows split serifs in the lettering, all signs of a double die variety. And these double die pennies from 2012 D have caused waves of excitement in the collecting community, because their rarity translates directly into high demand, and high demand leads to extraordinary prices at auction. Which is how we arrive at the story of one specimen in particular that sold for an unbelievable $9 million, because it combines several of these dramatic errors into one coin, a perfect storm of rarity, condition, and collector frenzy. And while most 2012 D pennies are only worth face value, the rarest examples can catapult into the millions thanks to this combination of factors. And the reason behind this astronomical valuation lies not just in one single mistake, but in the possibility of multiple overlapping errors on the same coin. Imagine, for example, a 2012 D penny struck with a double die obverse showing dramatic doubling in the date and in Lincoln's eye, coupled with a die crack running across the field, creating what collectors call a cod, combined with a reverse that is slightly off-center, leaving part of the shield cut off at the rim. And on top of all of that, the coin somehow escaped the mint in pristine, uncirculated condition without scratches or circulation marks, landing eventually in the hands of a sharp-eyed collector who recognized its significance. And when such a coin makes its way to a major auction house, the bidding war that follows can be intense, driving the price into record-breaking territory as multiple wealthy collectors compete for the privilege of owning something so unique. And this is exactly what happened when the $9 million 2012 D penny made headlines, as bidders pushed the final hammer price into territory that shocked even seasoned numismatists, proving once again that errors and mistakes in the minting process can turn a humble penny into a life-changing fortune. And while you may be wondering how often such dramatic errors occur, the truth is they are incredibly rare, but smaller errors are much more common, which is why collectors spend so much time inspecting their change under magnifying glasses, searching for die cracks, misaligned strikes, filled dies where grease obscures parts of the design, or repunched mint marks where the D was stamped more than once, leaving behind a shadow image. And while most of these may only be worth a few dollars, or perhaps a few hundred depending on severity and condition, the dream of finding that one coin that combines multiple errors keeps collectors motivated. Because the possibility of discovering a coin like the $9 million 2012 D penny is always there, hiding in jars of change, rolls from the bank, or even in the cash register at a local store. And this sense of adventure is what makes coin collecting such a rewarding hobby, blending history, art, chance, and treasure hunting all in one. And now let's imagine some of the specific types of errors that could elevate a coin like the 2012 D penny to such astronomical value. For example, a double die obverse. where the design elements appear doubled because the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during hubbing. This can cause Lincoln's eye to appear with an extra eyelid, or the date 2012 to show distinct shadow-like doubling, and these features are immediately recognizable under magnification, making them sought after by error specialists. Then, there are off-center strikes where the coin blank, called a planchet, was not properly aligned with the dies when struck, resulting in a coin where part of the design is missing and the blank surface is visible. The more dramatic the off-center strike, while still showing a full date, the more valuable the coin becomes. Another valuable type of error is the broad strike, where the collar die fails and the coin is struck without the proper rim, causing it to spread out and appear larger than normal. And then we have clipped planchets where part of the coin is missing in a crescent shape because the blank was cut from the metal sheet in overlapping fashion. And when you combine one or more of these dramatic errors on a single 2012 penny, you create something that stands out not just among modern coins, but among all rare coins in existence. And this uniqueness is what drives prices so high, especially when wealthy collectors recognize that they may never see another like it in their lifetime. And another factor to consider is the grade of the coin, because coins are graded on a scale from 1 to 70 by professional services like PCGS and NGC. And coins that survive in mint state, especially MS67, MS68, or higher, are extraordinarily rare for error coins because mistakes are often caught early or damaged in circulation. So when a pristine error coin emerges, it commands astronomical premiums, and this is precisely what pushed the 2012 penny in question to $9 million, as its combination of dramatic minting blunders, unique appearance, and flawless condition made it a once-in-a-lifetime piece. But beyond this specific example, the broader world of 2012 penny errors is full of stories, from small die chips that look like extra letters or shapes on Lincoln's portrait to dramatic misstrikes that catch the eye instantly, and each of these tells a story about the minting process and how even in an age of modern machinery perfection is never guaranteed, and it is this imperfection that collectors chase, because imperfection means rarity and rarity means value. And while most people will never notice these details, collectors know that treasures hide in the smallest things. And that's what makes the hobby so endlessly fascinating. So the next time you hold a 2012 penny, take a closer look, tilt it under the light, examine the date, the mint mark, Lincoln's eyes, his coat, the rim, and the shield on the reverse, because you never know what you might find, and perhaps you too could stumble upon an error so dramatic that it changes your life forever, just like the $9 million penny did for its finder. And this possibility is why the 2012 penny continues to capture attention in the coin world. A coin minted in the billions yet still capable of yielding rarities that can rival the most legendary coins of American history, reminding us that even in our modern change the potential for hidden treasure remains alive and well. And as collectors and enthusiasts we continue the hunt, guided by curiosity, driven by passion.